17-year-old Kiana Brown and her mother, Donna, are suing Kiana's aunt, Rhonda Battle, for the return of property left behind after Kiana was kicked out of her home.
All rise. Now it's case number 543 on the calendar in the matter of Brown versus Battle.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Brown, this is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your sister.
Yes.
And this is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
According to what I gather from your complaint, there came a time when you moved and your daughter, who was a senior in high school, would have had to have traveled 2 hours each way to school.
Yes.
Your sister, who had just purchased a home close by to the school, volunteered to take your daughter in and have her live with her so that her commute would be an easy one to school. You accepted, and your daughter went to live in her house. And she lived there for several months. Is that what I gather?
A few months, yes, ma'am.
Then something happened involving a bank account, money that was being withdrawn from your account by some sort of link that had been set up erroneously. When she was drawing money out, it wasn't supposed to come out of your account, but it did, and there was some problem with the bank. In any event, you left, and it is your claim that your sister refused to give your daughter back her property. That's what you're suing her for.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister says that in her counterclaim, you owe her for some collect calls that were received by your daughter from her boyfriend who was in jail, and lost wages nonsense. I don't know what that's about. Forget that. Anyway, that's your counterclaim. What property do you say your sister still has at her house?
Everything Kiana owns.
Just a second. I asked you specifically what you think she has there.
Bed.
Just a minute. Bed. Do you have the bed?
Yes, ma'am.
That goes back. What else?
TV, DVD player.
Shh. When did she purchase it?
About 5 years ago.
Okay, do you have that?
No, ma'am.
Where is it?
She took it. I don't know where it is.
Well, let's go through this very carefully. What property do you have in your house? And let's be very careful about it. What property do you have in your house that belongs to your niece?
Okay. The reason why a bed was still remaining in my home is because Kiana still frequented my house, but according to living things, she was no longer living there. So I do...
No longer living there when?
Mid-November.
Where did she go in mid-November?
She went home with her mom.
Why?
I didn't go home with my mom. I was still living with her. Our Christmas break, I went home with my mom for 2 weeks.
Christmas break started when?
It started December 21st.
When did you start living with your aunt?
I started living with my aunt in the summer of August.
So you were there August, September, October, November, and according to December?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you give your sister towards your daughter's support?
Nothing. She said she didn't need anything, but I did.
Just a second. So, for the 5 months that your daughter lived there, according to you, you gave her no support for your child. Do you work?
Yes, I work.
You have other children?
Yes, I do.
How many other children?
I have 2 other children.
How old are they?
14 and 16.
And who else lives in your home?
My boyfriend.
And he works?
He's unemployed at the moment.
Does your daughter's father provide her with child support?
He's deceased.
So she gets Social Security disability?
Up until last month.
She got, while she was living with your sister, Social Security disability?
Yes.
In what amount?
$93.
How often?
Every month.
Okay. So the $93 a month that your daughter receives from Social Security, you did not turn over to your sister?
No.
Any reason for that?
Well, I purchased deodorant, bus pass, any necessities that she needed, I provided for her, as well as groceries. I did take her to the grocery store, let her get groceries whenever she needed.
I'm just finding out what's going on here because I have to make a determination who's lying and who's telling the truth.
Your Honor, I have proof as well. Miss Battle is lying. Kiana never moved out of her residence. Kiana was thrown out on January the 18th of 2008 after the incident at the bank. I went to Rhonda. She called me, first of all, irate. I was at work. I told her, I will call you when I calm down because she upset me. I got off work early. I went home, called Miss Battle, asked her what was going on. She informed me that her checking account card and Kiana's savings account card were linked together. So I told her I needed to meet her at the bank so I can find out for myself from the bank. Got to the bank, spoke to a teller. He told me 3 times in front of Miss Battle and Kiana that the 2 cards were not linked together. So at that point, I told Rhonda I'm not writing a check because they said they weren't linked together. We proceeded to leave, driving down the street, same street that Rhonda lives on. I see her throwing my daughter's things in the street. I pull over, ask her, what is she doing? She tells me, your daughter stole my money. I stated to her, what did the bank tell you? At that point, she lunged at me and attacked me in my face. And as she attacked me, I grabbed her hand as it was raking down my face. My mouth was open. Her fingers were stuck in my mouth. I grabbed her hand. She pulled my hair, so I pulled her hair.
That all very unbecoming behavior.
Yes.
It ultimately turned out, Ms. Brown, that the bank had made a mistake and that the cards were linked. Just a minute. Ultimately, the bank called you and said, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. Were in fact linked. The money that your daughter was taking out, she was taking out of your sister's bank account.
Yes.
So that she was right. So that the bad behavior that erupted after you went to the bank and they gave you erroneous information.
But that is incorrect, Your Honor. I have the bank statement with the date and the time that we both went to the bank showing that the accounts, that the money was taken out the account. I have that statement.
I understand that,
We're
but
not
she says that when
disputing
you went to the bank and the two of you spoke to a teller,
Yes.
the idiot teller said to you, no, that's not true, they're not linked.
No, Your Honor, that is not true.
What did the teller
The teller
tell you?
did not have a chance to explain any of that to us.
What were you told when you left the bank?
And initially, when we left the bank, the teller was undetermined. We didn't get any answers. She walked out.
Just a second. She says the teller said no, they weren't. Turned out that they called her
2 weeks later.
I asked them to call her because she was calling the bank. The bank manager called me personally and said that Ms. Brown was pretending to be me. There was someone pretending to be me. She wanted me to come in.
You listen, I don't have to go there. It's
Right.
not necessary. We're just saying it turned out that you were right.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was wrong. But you were both wrong for having escalated this thing into something that was pretty ugly.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when she was throwing your daughter's things out on the lawn in front of her house, what was she throwing out?
Her bras, her underwear. She had a whole stack of her jeans that she grabbed from the
And what
closet.
did you do with them?
I didn't pick the stuff up. I was asking Rhonda. As I was talking
Just
to
a
Rhonda,
second.
she was picking it up, throwing it in her trunk, and she closed her trunk down.
Who did?
Miss Battle.
Why would she throw it out and then put it in her car?
Because she didn't want us to get it.
Nah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have a problem believing both of you. I really do. I think that the two of you are so invested in being bitter with each other that you just are prepared to say anything that's necessary. Both of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kiana Brown says her aunt, Rhonda Battle, won't return her belongings. Rhonda is accusing Kiana of stealing money from her bank account and is countersuing for lost wages and a phone bill.
Listen to me, Miss Brown. Let me tell you what's distressing to me. What's distressing to me is that, according to your daughter, for the 5 months that she lived with your sister, and your sister took care of her, provided a roof over her head, provided her food and snacks and milk and juice, whatever, light, air, everything else. Put your hand down. Put your hand down. You were receiving money from the government that should have gone to your sister. I'm telling you it should have gone to your sister because you were not providing a home for your daughter, who was being cared for by another person. That person should have had the support that the government was providing. That alone, according to your daughter, is $500. Now, I have to make a judgment as to who's telling me the truth. Your sister, who provided a home free of charge for her niece in order to make her niece's life more comfortable, or you, who got money from the government, did not send it where it should have gone. You say there's $5,000 worth of property that your daughter had at your sister's house.
And I have a witness to that, my other sister, who really doesn't want to be here to testify, but she is willing to tell the truth because my daughter never moved from Rhonda's house.
Whether she moved or not, I don't believe that you had $5,000 worth of property at your sister's house. What?
I had DVD players worth $200, iPods that I bought over a period of time. I love Jordans and Nikes. $400 worth of shoes.
You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am. I had.
And you had an iPod?
I had DVD players, iPods.
You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am. Portable.
Not players. You had a DVD player?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you purchase it?
I actually got it for Christmas this Christmas from my mother's boyfriend.
How much did those things cost? I have no idea.
They cost about $200 and
you had an iPod?
$277, $250.
You had an iPod?
I had an iPod, and it cost $170.
Okay.
You have a digital
A shuffle and my digital camera, and I had Jordans. I had Jordan 1 Retro 1s, Jordan Retro 4s, Jordan Retro 13s.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They're
Jordans are a pair of sneakers, Judge.
They're shoes, tennis
Retros
shoes.
cost
Right.
These kids spend a
Your
lot of
Honor,
money on
Ms.
these.
Brown is elaborating on items that she does not have and did not have in my home.
Your Honor, my daughter's father is deceased. She had memorabilia, pictures, wedding tapes. She had jewelry. She didn't receive anything but what she had on her back.
Do you have any of this memorabilia of hers?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Did you have in your house?
At one point, I did.
And what happened to it?
When Kiana moved out in November, because of the phone bills, which is my counterclaim, if I may.
Go ahead.
While Kiana was living in my home, she was accepting collect calls announced to me from her boyfriend in juvenile hall. She ran up my
Who's
phone.
the boyfriend?
His name is Jelante.
And why were you accepting these collect calls from him?
I actually paid that off with the money I earned from work. I paid everything off.
She never
to
had
Miss
permission
Battle.
to accept calls.
Who did you pay?
I paid Miss Battle the same day that we went to the bank and opened the account.
Well, wait just a second. When did you pay her? Give me the date. Give me the month.
It was when I first got my job. It was my first check that I earned. I'm not sure when.
Give me the month.
I started working in October.
So you got your first check and you paid her for these collect calls, so that would have been in October.
Yes, ma'am.
She says she gave you a check to cover some of those calls, some or all of those calls, sometime in October. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, she did not.
Okay.
In fact, they eventually cut off the phone, and it went to collections, which was very upsetting.
Can I see them, please?
Yes, ma'am. She admits to having a relationship with the boy in jail. So.
Your Honor, when Rhonda called me and told me Kiana was accepting collect calls from her boyfriend from juvenile hall, I told Rhonda that Kiana needs to be responsible. Her first check, Rhonda took her to open up a savings account.
You weren't there. Don't tell me.
I talked to her.
You weren't there. Don't tell me.
Well, she told me that she paid her the money because I asked her.
You know something? I have a problem believing both of you. I really do. I think that the two of you are so invested in being bitter with each other that you just are prepared to say anything that's necessary. Both of you. I do believe that your sister took some stuff because she was furious, that she says that you were assaultive to her. She said that you scratched her face, that she couldn't go to work.
I have
she was,
proof.
Just a minute. I'm telling you what she says. And because she says that, whether it's true or it's not true, I assume she believes that that's what happened. And you said she pulled my hair. I did what I had to do to defend myself. Probably shouldn't have stopped the car at that point. You probably should have just gone to the police and said her stuff is outside and I don't want to get involved with it because my sister's too angry. But there was a time when your sister was very loving and very supportive of both you and your daughter.
And me, her.
Just a second. Did you ever take care of her children in your house?
Yes, I've taken her son when he was 2 weeks old. She was tired, needed some help.
How long did he stay with you?
Every other weekend sometime.
Oh, listen, we're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about having a teenage child living with her, a child who has limited judgment if she's got a boyfriend in Folsom, juvenile detention. Well, that's where the collect calls come from, Folsom, California.
Okay.
Right? So a teenager with limited judgment living in her house because it's more convenient for her to get to school. That is not something that somebody does who's a bad person. So clearly, something happened between the two of you. What got in between the two of you was a teenager. That's what got in between the two of you. And a teenager who inadvertently got some funds taken out of an account that shouldn't have been. You did not support your sister when she said it happened. I mean, I got what? Don't show me receipts. You didn't say to your sister, look, I don't know what happened. Whatever happened, I'll take care of it if that's what happened. You said, prove it to me. Meet me at the bank. You got to the bank, and the bank didn't right away say, listen, we made a mistake. So you said, you see, my daughter was right. You were wrong. You accused her of taking money out of your account, and that was wrong. And you left. Turned out, she was right. But what got in between you two, formerly loving sisters, because you used to take care of her baby, she took care of your bigger baby, turned into an ugly, vicious situation. Ugly and vicious because she tried to do something that was good and positive for your daughter, and because of circumstances over which neither one of you had control, but over which both of you acted badly.
Your Honor, once I found out, I went immediately and I paid that bill.
I got you. The damage was already done. The fight had already taken place.
Yes, ma'am.
The scratching had already taken place. The hair pulling had already taken place.
Yes, ma'am.
She had already tossed out your daughter's stuff, because she was angry, tossed it out, sold it, whatever, and she probably, if it took 2 weeks for the bank to come up with the ultimate solution, which was they were wrong, it was probably, if she did sell some property that belonged to your daughter, probably within that 2-week period that she did it until the bank notified her that you would come in and made restitution on that account. I also, what?
Your Honor, I also have documentation from Kiana's school where this incident has really brought emotional distress from her teacher.
Listen, I'm sure about that.
I also have receipts where I had to replace eyeglasses.
It's enough.
Okay.
It's enough. You got to let it rest.
But I don't have nothing. She has all my stuff.
I don't think she has your stuff anymore.
I had DVD players that I bought, that my mom helped me buy. Everything that I ever owned. Everything from my mom's house.
Why do you think she would do that?
Because she thought I stole her money, which I didn't. And we have receipts saying we paid her back. I have receipts. I had to go buy all new stuff.
Just a second. You paid her back for what?
For the money that they said that was taken off of my card.
Just a minute. You were using a credit card?
No, it's a bank debit card.
A savings account card.
And you had money in your savings account?
Yes, ma'am.
So instead of taking the money out of your savings account, they were taking it out of her checking account?
Yes, ma'am.
Over what period of time?
They said it was for, like, I just barely got the card. I was supposed to have first card come, but I guess she said she had it in her safe, so she ordered another card. And so when she finally gave it to me, it was open and everything. So I was like, okay, you know, I finally got my card. You know, I was still putting money. It's my senior year. You know, it's my year to be 18, and I can't do nothing because I have to buy all new stuff. I can't really concentrate on school because
Well, start concentrating on school. This is just stuff. They're just things.
But
These are things. Very unfortunate.
My dad pictures. My dad is dead.
Well, that if you had those things and if you no longer have them, Miss Battle, because you got angry with your sister and you got angry with your niece and in a fit of anger you threw them out. If you threw those things out, that was absolutely a terrible thing to do. You understand that?
If I'd done that, that would have been a terrible thing to do, Your Honor.
Yeah.
But those things were not in my home.
The things that are packable should be put in a box and shipped to them. The bed, if you want it, you'll have to arrange for a marshal to be there to escort you in to pick it up. Okay. So those things are going to be returned to you. I'm awarding you $1,500 for clothes and the replacement value for an iPod, DVD player, some sneakers, etc. $500 for punitive damages because I do believe that you threw away the pictures and her memorabilia, which are irreplaceable because you were in a bad mood. That's $2,000. Now, I was going to deduct the $500 that I think that you should have paid to your sister for the support of your daughter for the 5 months that you allege she was there. Instead, I think that you should take $500 out of your pocket and add that to your daughter's losses, which would make it $2,500 that she has to spend to replace her stuff. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And on your counterclaim, Miss Battle, I don't think that you had any losses whatsoever, and I do believe that this young lady paid you for the phone bill, so your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Party Judge, Judy, you may...
Allison Abushan claims her ex-boyfriend, Christopher Wilson, owes for the down payment on a truck. Allison also claims Christopher overdrew their shared bank account.
Thank you, Bert. Miss Abushan, how long were you and the defendant together as a couple?
About 5.5 months.
Did he move in with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you meet him?
I met him when I was finishing college in Kentucky. He then moved back with me to Minnesota.
Mr. Wilson, when you moved back with Miss Abushan to Minnesota, what were you doing for a living, sir?
I got down there and I started work for DirecTV.
In what month did you move to Minnesota?
It was 2 days before Christmas.
So let's say January. And when did you get the job with DirecTV?
It was about a month after Christmas.
February?
Yes.
How long did you have the job?
Until I come back to Kentucky.
And when was that?
In the middle of March.
Well, then you weren't working very long, sir.
Right.
Who was supporting you?
My parents would send me money, help me out.
I'm talking about her. Was she supporting you?
It'd go either way. I had money too.
Where did you have money from?
My parents, like I say, they would send me money.
How old are you, Mr. Wilson?
I'm 23. I'll be 24.
If I let you.
I hope you'll let me.
All of these things, my questions have a reason, Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
This is your complaint. You foolishly, very foolishly, put a down payment on a truck or
Yes, Your
something
Honor.
for him. And there was an agreement that he was going to pay you back for it because he didn't have any what?
Transportation or money.
Because he didn't have any money.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have put the down payment on his own truck. So evidently his parents, because he acknowledges that you put the down payment on the truck for him, right? I read your papers.
Correct.
And if you had money of your own, then you wouldn't have needed money from? You're smarter than you look, sir. Now, 2 weeks after you bought him this truck, he goes back to Kentucky to deal with some legal issues, according to him, having to do with his child.
That ended up being
I'm
false.
speaking.
Excuse me.
And his child said, "Oh, Daddy, don't leave." So he decided to leave and dump you and go back to the mother of his child and his child because he couldn't say no to his baby. And he kept your
truck.
That's after 2 weeks.
Yes,
and how
ma'am.
much did you lay out?
$3,500.
You know, your looks are deceiving, sir. What?
$3,500, Your Honor.
No. There were also payments due on this truck.
Yes, Your Honor.
He moved back in the middle of March to Kentucky. Did he make the March payment on the truck?
No, ma'am, he did not.
I see, shh, just a second. I see a whole lot of blank space on your table, Mr. Wilson. You say in your answer that you made the truck payments. You left, according to you, the second week in March. Show me the March payment that you made.
I ain't got no evidence of nothing. She come and got the truck without my knowledge, right in the middle of the day.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You have evidence, sir, because you would have proof that you made the truck payment in March.
Nothing was due. There was no payments due on that truck.
I have a check, Your Honor.
I just had purchased. We just had purchased that truck. Like I say, we just had purchased
You mean
that
you
truck.
purchased it, they made you a gift?
No, it's not a gift. It wasn't. There was no payments due on it.
When was the first payment due?
Whenever we bought the truck, like 3 weeks before, and I hadn't had a chance to pay the payment on it because she come and got it.
You didn't have a chance.
Exactly.
Your Honor, I have a check for
Can I see it,
March.
please?
Yes, ma'am. My mother wrote it out of account that we had shared together, my mother and I, to make the payment. After he was delinquent on that payment, that's when we chose to go down there for the sake of my credit.
Shh, just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
We do this according to the way I run this playpen, okay? Check is dated the 21st of March, so I assume for $271.75. You don't have another check that you made, do you, sir?
No.
In March? No. No. Then you went down because he didn't make the payment. And very wisely, I might add, decided not to be involved with this man anymore because now your credit is on the line because there are payments due on this car.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you and your mom, according to your papers, went down and repossessed the car
Yes.
and sold it.
Yes.
Sold it at a loss.
Yes.
And what you want is the money that you spent on him for this truck. How much did you sell the truck for?
Sold the truck for $10,500. Had $11.86 left on the truck to be paid.
All right, so what's the deficit?
About $1,300.
Okay. That's a cheap lesson. Now, when, Miss Aubuchon, when you went down to repossess the truck, did you give him any notice that he had the opportunity to make up any of these?
Yes, Your Honor. I asked him if he would please return the truck to me. I even offered to buy him a plane ticket back to Kentucky from Minnesota if he would do that.
And what did he say to you?
He said, I'll do it, and then he would not call me back. I wouldn't be able to get a hold of him for several weeks at a time.
When did you first call him?
I called him.
Mr. Wilson, this smirk is irritating. Go ahead.
I was explaining this to him about a week after he left once I realized that he would not be returning.
When he left to go to Kentucky,
Yes.
when did he notify you that he would not be coming back?
It was about a week after he left. He told me that he wasn't going to be coming back due to his baby and missing his family. At that point, I said, I'll give you the opportunity to make the truck payment. If you do not, it will be going against my credit as well, and I will have to retrieve the truck.
And when did you have the discussion with him?
That discussion with him was had about a week after he...
Which was when?
It would have been the very end of February, first week of March. I also have credit card charges, Your Honor, which would indicate when he returned back to Kentucky.
I'd like to see them, please. Now, the second part of your claim is that he overdrew a joint checking account that you had. And quite frankly, I'm far more interested in that than this truck problem because
Yes, Your
the
Honor.
truck was an unfortunate exercise for you.
Right.
You got most of your money back.
Right.
The $1,300 is probably a reasonable lesson that you'll never do it again.
Well, the
But
down payment I never got back.
the down payment you did get back, madam. When you sold it, if anything, there was one payment due. I mean, it was a wise thing for you to do. Otherwise, you would have been responsible for the whole thing. But no bank would have gone after him after a week.
But I gave him the opportunity to
No bank
pay
would have gone after him after a week. And in all probability, he would not have made these payments. There's no question he wouldn't have made these payments from a moral perspective. But from a legal perspective, if you own a car and you finance it, and if you're 4 days late with a payment, they do not come after you and repossess the car. They don't do it.
Right.
Let's hear about the money in your checking account.
Okay. We opened this joint checking account because I was supporting Mr. Wilson. I gave him a card of his own. Once he started making money, his checks were going to be directly deposited into that account so that we could pay bills together, so on and so forth. When he left, that account was emptied. I foolishly did not close it.
Just a second. When he left, the account was emptied by you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much was in the account?
At the time, there was about $1,500 in the account.
Okay. And at the time, Mr. Wilson had been working for about a month.
Correct.
How much money did you put into the account, Mr. Wilson?
Probably about $700.
Okay, fine. And then, according to the plaintiff, Mr. Wilson, you made charges against her bank credit for $2,000. Why did you do that, sir?
I don't think I made that much.
Why did you make any?
I don't think I made about maybe $300, and I figured my money was in there.
Well, let's see how much money. How much money did he charge on the debit card?
I believe the total is about $2,300.
Not about. Figure it out, because then you're going to show it to Mr. Wilson. You need a calculator?
I may need a calculator. There's quite a bit.
Stand over next to her while she's adding this up so you save me a little bit of time, Mr. Wilson. Listen to me, Miss Aubuchon.
Thank you. Yes, Your Honor.
Show him the charge, add it on the calculator. Press on.
Okay.
I know enough about the machine to know they have to press on.
This is the ladder. This is the advance for credit card for food and gas when you left town, food and gas in Kentucky, when you ordered stuff in order to set up your new business in Kentucky, more food and gas, and the Dell computer.
And what do we have as a total?
We have $2,130, I believe.
5 cents on your computer.
This is wrong. That was the difference.
Go, step back over and don't be a smart mouth. Can I see it, please?
Sure.
Give me the computer. Let him stand right there next to you.
Okay. So unless the decimal is in the wrong place, it should be about $1,595 that I've now added up. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, Mr. Wilson, you've gone over those charges. That should be your computer in Kentucky, your business in Kentucky, the food and gas in Kentucky. Gone over those charges?
Yes.
Is that right? $1,595?
I don't think so.
Well, how much is it, sir? Here, just a second. Let's do... You add it.
I don't need no calculator. I mean, I really don't.
No, listen to me. Then add it up in your head. Add it up in your head. What?
600.
No. Add up those figures, sir. Give the piece of paper to Smartmouth. Read over the figures that she just added, sir. Come on.
Well, at the time, you know, from Minnesota, Kentucky.
Listen, from Minnesota to Kentucky, give me the charges. Let's go.
Let me see your calculator then. This calculator ain't right.
Can I have the calculator, please? I've been using it for 11 years. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, Miss Aubuchon, this is a challenge. I want you to say the charge, tell me what it was for,
okay,
and the amount.
Okay. There was a ladder charged at Menards, $220.85.
Don't give me any change.
Okay.
Just round it out to the last
Yes,
dollar.
Your Honor.
$225?
Yep. Advance from credit card, $150. Skywalker Communications, $175. Food and gas in Kentucky, $50. Advance from credit card, $1,000. I'm sorry, I missed that originally. And the Dell computer, $807.
Where's the computer, sir?
I sent it back whenever she notified me about it.
Send it back to whom?
Dale, a long time ago.
Is there a credit?
I was never credited for that, Your Honor.
You owe her $2,407. You got it? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,407. Listen, Miss Aubuchon,
Yes,
you
Your
made a
Honor.
mistake.
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't make another mistake.
I won't, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Eugene Tonda says the mother of his children, Amanda Petrie, owes for a loan to move out of his house. Amanda claims Eugene put her out of the home when she was 8.5 months pregnant.
Mr. Tonda, you and Miss Petrie have 2 children together. You've never been married. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are your children?
4 and 2.5, almost 3.
And in what state did you live?
Minnesota.
Where do you live now?
I live in Texas. That's where I'm from.
Where do you live now?
I still reside in Minnesota.
Your complaint, Mr. Tonda, alleges a loan to the defendant, which she was paying for several years. And then when she left Minnesota with your children and moved to Texas, she stopped paying the loan. You want her to continue paying the loan.
Correct.
Ms. Petrie says that she was coerced into signing a paper or agreeing to repay this money. It was never intended to be a loan. And now that she's in Texas, she's not paying you another dime. Let's see. When did you make this loan and what was it for, sir?
I originally took out the loan, Your Honor, in March of 2004. It was to get Amanda into an apartment of her own. She was living with me, but we were not together at the time. She had just moved back from North Carolina, where she had relocated to go live with her sister for a while.
And she took your child with her?
Yeah, at the time we had just our son, Gino.
Were you happy about her going to live with her sister?
No, not at all.
Actually, his exact words were, "I don't care." My sister was standing next to me. He wasn't involved. He wasn't paying child support.
Well, he must have been together with him at some point if your sister was in the room when he said, I don't care.
I went and told him, and she came with me.
No.
You told him what?
That I was thinking of moving to North Carolina, that he and I didn't get along. He was verbally and emotionally abusive, and it wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for our son. He wasn't paying support at the time, and that I needed a fresh start.
And he said?
And he said, "I don't care, whatever."
Actually, Your Honor, that's not true at all. I was paying support to her directly, and the manner of which she broke this news to me was we were actually at a bowling alley, and she had got furiated about some silly thing, and then said, "Well, I'm moving to North Carolina," and just picked up and walked away. And it wasn't like a calm, cool, collected.
Was it in a bowling alley that you told him this?
I did tell him.
Fine. Got it. Okay. Then you went to North Carolina. That didn't work out.
And he wasn't paying child support.
Moved back to Minnesota at what point?
I moved back at the end of November of '03. He convinced me to move back. We had found out I was pregnant with our daughter now, and I wasn't going to move back, and he convinced me to move back, that he had made mistakes, and he was going to be more involved. And then a week after we moved back, he had decided that living in his house was too much of a family union, and we just argued all the time. And then in March of '04, 3 weeks before I was due with our daughter, he kicked us out. He didn't take the loan out to help me. I wasn't searching for an apartment. I had no job at the time. I was due in 3 weeks. He took it out, didn't discuss it with me, had no idea, and said, "You need to get out of my house." I let him know, "I don't have a job. I'm due in 3 weeks. Where do you expect us to go?" And he said, "Well, I took out a loan." So I didn't know about it. I've never signed anything.
Okay, let's go.
That, again, not the case. We had discussed it before. We were not together at the time. Yeah, she was living with me. I, at the time, had still originally purchased this house with a friend. So there was a couple roommates there, and it wasn't an environment for, 2 kids. There was, 2 other, mid-20-year-old men living there. So I let her live there as an accommodation until we could find something.
So you were living with him in a house with other adult males?
They lived in the basement, yes.
With other adult males?
Yes.
Did you share a room with him?
Yes.
In that house?
Yes.
Okay, so you're sharing a bedroom?
Correct.
So far, you're losing my sympathy, Mr. Tonda.
Well, it was an unfortunate circumstance. I mean, we had to do what we had to do, and that's why, I didn't kick her out. I brought up a proposition that I felt would be beneficial for both of us to get her into a room before our daughter was born.
Why? Who was going to be there to help her?
Who was going to be there to help her?
That's my
question.
question.
We had gotten a place, 15, 20 minutes away from my house, so...
That's 15 or 20 minutes. She's expecting a baby. She's living in Minnesota. I assume she has no family in Minnesota.
She did not have any family, per se, but my family had taken her on as like her own.
She had no family in Minnesota. She's due in 3 weeks. Your child.
Yep.
So it would seem to me you'd want to keep her around at least until she's back up on her feet after the baby is born. This doesn't seem like the appropriate time to find her a new space, Mr. Tonda.
Well, I felt it was more appropriate before the baby was born than after.
You're wrong. It was selfish and babyish.
I disagree.
I don't give a rat's tutu whether you agree or disagree, sir. You want me to take a poll as to whether or not most mature adult males would say it was appropriate to find an 8.5-month pregnant woman who's got a 1-year-old a place of her own in a town where she has no family, sir? You want me to take a poll?
No.
You don't want to. You don't want a poll there, sir. Believe me.
I don't think it's necessary.
Believe me, you don't want a poll. It was a selfish thing to do. So you took out a loan. You got her an apartment.
Correct.
Right? Well, you didn't expect her to pay the rent, did you?
Well, not
How was she
right
supposed
away.
to pay the rent? 8.5 months pregnant.
Well, not right away, but that's why we took out the loan when she started working.
Let's see when.
When she started working.
Well, when did you think she was going to start working?
I would assume roughly 6 to 8 weeks after her daughter was born.
Right. And just a second. And what was she supposed to do with a 6-week-old baby and a 1-year-old baby? What was she supposed to do with those?
Well, it's not like she was just on her own. I mean, obviously, I was an active parent involved in paying support, so she had the support that I was paying her.
Just a second. That's not being an active parent.
I don't understand what's not being an active parent.
Giving money is not an active parent.
No, that was to help the situation. I'm not defining being an active parent by taking out a loan.
Well, what did you do when she got this apartment by herself? Did you go over there every day?
I was over there quite a bit, actually.
That's not my question. Did you go over there every day to take care of your son?
Well, I wouldn't say every day.
Well, what did you expect her to do with the baby and a new baby when you weren't there? What did you expect her to do?
Your Honor, it's a circumstance where, unfortunately, we weren't together and it didn't work out. But I felt I did what I could to help her out, and, my family...
So then what are you doing here? My question to you, sir, is what are you doing here? You took out a loan to get her an apartment so she could be on her own after impregnating her twice.
Well, I'm here to, a loan is the key word. She agreed to pay, and she faithfully paid on it for 2 years on the loan. And then once I filed for custody of my children, because she picked up and moved to Texas with 5 days notice.
Well, that was a bad thing for her to do, to pick up and move to Texas, if you were a good and involved father.
Because she has only her best interest in mind, not the interest of the children, hence the reason that I filed for custody.
And you only have the best interest of the children in mind.
Actually, I do, Your Honor.
Then what are you doing here? How much support were you paying 2 years ago?
When we had just our son born, I was giving her about $400 a month.
$400 a month?
A month.
That's
What
incorrect. Okay.
I was giving her $200 every 2 weeks.
And what do you give her now?
$800.
Every 2 weeks?
No, $800 a month is what the court has ordered me to pay.
Well, that's the same thing as you were paying her before, for one child. Now you're giving her the same amount for 2 children.
Right, which is double. Normally, it's only a 10% increase from the first one to the second one. So
that doesn't sound like, sir, the best interest of the children percentage. It's usually a 10% increase?
Yeah, 25% of your income for the first one, and then in Minnesota, it's 35%.
No,
so,
that's not, sir, you don't get confused.
Well, I know it's not 10%.
Those are the minimum federal child support guidelines, which have been adapted in every jurisdiction. That's the minimum. Do you work?
Yes, ma'am, and I'm in school.
Who takes care of the children?
They go to Child Builders Christian School. It's a private preschool.
And who pays for it?
I do.
How much do you pay for daycare?
$650 a month.
Okay, so she pays $650 a month. And how much of the daycare do you pay, Mr. Tanda?
I believe a portion of the total support goes to that. Nothing specific.
That's not what I asked you.
Well, I don't pay anything directly to the...
Right. So if we take away what you pay, which is $800 a month, from the $650 that she pays just to keep the children so that she can work, we have a grand total of $150 a month. So I'm speaking. I'm speaking. We're going to divide that by 2 equals $75 a month for each child. And that we're going to divide by 30 equals $2.50 a day is what you pay for each of your children in child support.
May I speak now, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know her exact financial situation, but obviously I want to be involved to the point where I'm filing for custody of my children. And the fact is that she must not be hurting too bad, because she's obviously able to afford a lawyer to fly up to Minnesota to try to fight from keeping me from having the opportunity to have my kids reside in the state where I live.
Mr. Tanda, I want you to listen very carefully, sir. I have tremendous sympathy for non-custodial parents who don't see their children. And I have usually very little sympathy for custodial parents who pick up and move away and make it difficult for the non-custodial parents to see their children. Usually. But let me explain to you, sir, that in this case, Miss Petrie followed you from Wisconsin to Minnesota, where you live. 2 times, right?
Correct.
And when she came back the second time, she had a baby, and it didn't work out. You say, I fulfilled my obligation because I wanted to be close to my children, paid the rent so it would be comfortable and easy for her, and gave her $200. But out of that $200, I expected her to work with 2 children and to pay for daycare, and to pay me back my loan. Do you see why sympathy is waning for you, Mr. Tanda?
Your Honor, the state was picking up the majority of the tab of the daycare when they were in Minnesota, so the situation that we had in Minnesota was perfectly fine.
No, it wasn't working fine. You put her out and put her in her own apartment. And what you're supposed to say, Mr. Tanda, is, I'm sorry for bringing you to court. It was a stupid thing for me to do because I have found a very unsympathetic judge who doesn't find that this was a loan. The court finds that it was a very comfortable way for you to stay in your house with your 2 bachelor boyfriends and get rid of your responsibility that you didn't have to deal with on a regular basis, which clearly, according to your own testimony, you didn't. You weren't at her apartment every day after the baby was born, taking care of your son, taking care of your daughter.
Well, maybe 6 out of 7 days. I don't,
Yeah, baloney. Coming over and spending an hour is not being there to do the job of a parent, sir.
Than an hour.
And I'm not saying that she was smart to have a second child with you.
No.
1 mistake I can understand. 2 is dumb.
I agree.
But it takes 2 to tango.
It does.
What I'm telling you is, right now, the mother of your 2 children seems to be taking care of her financial responsibilities relatively comfortably. She's got a job, she pays for daycare, and she's doing that with marginal help from you.
Well, unfortunately, with her picking up, moving 1,300 miles away,
where did you expect her? Listen to me, sir. Where did you expect her to move to? You expected her to move to a jurisdiction that was closer to you where she had nobody?
No, she picked up and gave me 5 days' notice when I'm supposed to have my kids for a Christmas vacation, and she calls and tells me they're not coming and she's moving to Texas.
Right.
So
that's where her family is, though. That's where her family is, right?
Her mother, who she said nothing but bad things about the whole time.
Her mother and who else?
Her brother lives a few hours away.
Got a mother and a brother.
Yep.
What do you do for a living?
I work for a cell phone company.
Which cell phone company?
Verizon Wireless.
Good. They have offices in Texas. Why don't you move there?
It's
Listen to me. That's where your family is, sir. Your 2 children are in Texas. Her support system is in Texas.
She had a tremendous support system from my family, too.
Now, her family's not your family.
Right.
You want to be near your children?
Your Honor, can I talk
Go to
for a minute?
Texas.
When our son was being delivered and her mother had called and she was holding our son, this is how much she adores her mother. She said, "Oh, that's the grandma
No, I
of
did
the
not.
phone." And we have it on
Mr.
videotape, Your Honor. So
Mr.
for her to say that that's an excuse to move down there and have her support system,
Mr.
she doesn't
Tanda.
even barely get along with her mom.
Mr. Tanda, you get along with your mother?
I do get along with my mom.
Ever not get along with your mother, sir?
I never
Did you ever not get along with your mother?
I never badmouth my mom.
Did you ever not get along? That's not what I asked you. Did you ever not get along with your mother?
As much as everybody probably hasn't.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of curse words that go on in a labor and delivery room. A lot. I guarantee you that she called you a couple of names, too. If she didn't, she probably meant to. Let me explain something to you, sir. You don't have a profession where you're licensed to practice only in the state of Minnesota. And if I were you and if I wanted to see my children, I would call up my boss and I would say, please find me a place in Texas so you could be a lot closer to your children if that's in your mind. But based upon what I hear, you wanted her out of the house. You took out a loan. I see no reasonable expectation for the foreseeable future of you being paid back any money from somebody who now has 2 babies, no job, living in a place where she has no family. I don't see any reasonable expectation of you being paid back, sir. And that's part of a contract, if it's a loan. You did the right thing if you weren't getting along and helping her get set up. Don't be a fool now, Mr. Tanda. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Kathleen Bowers is suing her former friend, Lana Batman, for damaging her Dodge Durango when she backed into a pole.
Miss Batman, you will forgive him, won't you?
Sure.
Good. Miss Bowers, this used to be your friend. She borrowed your car. She had an accident. You wanted to pay for the damage to your car. Miss Batman does acknowledge that she had an accident with the car. She said you should have used your insurance, and if you didn't have good enough insurance, that's your problem. That's pretty much your defense.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, correct.
How'd you damage her car?
I pulled into a carport trying to move, and when I pulled out, I was trying to look around the corner, and it hit the carport pole.
So the accident was your fault?
Yeah.
So how does that translate into use your insurance, and if you don't have insurance, you pay for it?
Well, if you don't have the proper insurance, why are you loaning your car out?
Just admit she had proper insurance. You have liability?
Yes, actually, my mother had bought me the car, so my mother had full coverage insurance on the car. And at the time we were going to file the claim, Lana would not call her agency, because first we were going to try and go through hers. And so she came over and we discussed it, and she told me that since she had borrowed the car, She wanted me to pay half because I had lent it to her. We were going to do it out of pocket, so the insurance, because it was going to go onto her insurance, my mother's insurance, and yeah. So we were going to try to do it outside of there.
You were going to try to do it without using your insurance.
Yes.
Because certainly if you used your mother's insurance rates were at risk. And if you used hers, her insurance rates were potentially at risk.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know because Lana wouldn't get a hold of her insurance for me.
Whatever. You have an estimate?
I do.
Right. I called my insurance.
And?
And they said the insurance follows the car, not the person.
Okay.
That was a week after I had it
Just a
fixed.
second. Miss Batman, let me try to explain it to you, because I know that you really probably think you're right.
I am right.
Shh. Miss Batman, I want you to listen to me.
She shouldn't have loaned her car out.
I want you to listen to me carefully.
I didn't ask to borrow the car.
Listen to me. I want you to listen to me
She
carefully.
felt guilty.
Try listening. Okay, listen.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Can I say something?
First, you have to listen. I understand. Hey, listen. We live in a world of responsibility.
Right. And I'm very
Just listen. Try not to plug up. Try to open up and listen. If you didn't want to accept the responsibility of using her car with caution, then you should not have taken her car. Now, based upon what you told me, you drove the car negligently, not on purpose, but you weren't looking, because certainly if you weren't looking in the right place or if you misjudged space, that's your fault. It's not fair for you to say, well, it's true that I caused the damage to her car, and I want her to bear the responsibility of fixing the car with her insurance, despite the fact that we all know that once you put in a claim for insurance, your premiums go up for sometimes up to 5 years. And that, Miss Batman, is just wrong.
Can I
It's
say
not
something?
thinking. I know that you have something you want to say, but I want you to try to absorb what I've said to you as an adult. Now I will hear you.
Okay. First, I didn't borrow the car. She was supposed to help me move.
Shh, no, listen to me.
No,
Listen to
she was supposed to help me move, and she was going to drive the car. I didn't want to drive her car. She was sick, and she couldn't help me, as usual. And so she said, well, here, why don't you borrow my car? Because, you know, I feel really guilty. So I said, no, I'll take my dad's truck. And she said, no, 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 take my car. Just take my car.
What does that have to do with what I just said to you?
Well-
How old are you?
30.
Listen to me.
But
If you're
I'm
30,
not finished.
if you're 30, but I'm going to stop you right. If you're 30, and if you say, no, I'll take my dad's truck, the reason you didn't want to take her car is because you didn't want to be responsible for it.
I didn't want to
Listen to
drive
me. You didn't want to be responsible for it.
Right, but she should
Right.
have been responsible in saying, this is insured under my name. It's under my mother's insurance. You won't be covered.
Miss Batman, if you're 30 years old and somebody says, take my car, and you say, no, I don't want to take your truck, you're forcing me to take your truck, you're holding a gun to my head, I'm going to take your truck, but I'm not going to be responsible for it. If you take her car, you are responsible for acting in a way that doesn't cause damage to the car. And if you cause damage to it, that's your responsibility.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,260.
Thank you
That's
very
enough,
much.
Judy.
What is that excuse? You may step out.
Terry Taylor is suing her foster daughter, 20-year-old Christy Tomier, for SUV payments, parking tickets, and impound fees.
Ms. Taylor, the defendant is your former foster child.
That's correct.
She came to live with you as a teenager for a period of time, and you continued a relationship with her, according to your complaint, so that she felt comfortable enough to come back into your home subsequently, and you agreed at some point to co-sign for a truck for her so that she would be independent and be able to go to work and go to school and do stuff. So you did. And it was her understanding and your agreement and your contract that she was going to make the payments on this truck. Take your hands out of your pockets. She was going to make the payments on this truck. Well, the defendant did make payments on the truck for a period of time. She met a boy, got married, had a baby, not necessarily in that order, but she and her husband subsequently separated, and she stopped making payments on the truck. Not only did she stop making payments on the truck, but she couldn't find the right place to park, so she got some parking tickets, and ultimately her car was impounded, probably for those parking tickets. You were contacted by the bank. Cost you a whole bunch of money to get the car out of towing to pay off the car, and you want her to be responsible and take care of those bills. That's what the case is about.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Go.
I paid on the car for 2 years, paid $3,000 on it. Up until 9/16 was my September, October, November, December. I missed 4 payments in a row.
You missed 4
payments in a row.
Okay. When was the last time you made a payment? In September?
August.
So you missed September,
Yes.
October, November, and December.
Yes.
You missed 4 months.
On Christmas Eve, I thought the vehicle was stolen because I went out to go home for the weekend, and the car was gone. And it was just odd. I thought that they had taken it back because the payments were late. And the night before...
No, they weren't late. They weren't made for 4 months. Late is when you miss a couple of days.
I wasn't working when my husband and I were married. He up and left one day. Since that point, I know it seems like I was irresponsible. Since that point, I got a place to live on my own, by myself, with no financial help.
Well, that is great. Why'd you get parking tickets? Because that's why the car was towed.
Because I parked in the wrong spot.
How many times?
Twice. And then I got another parking lot ticket down the street for being there for a meter or whatever. I got 2 more of those. So I had quite a few parking tickets.
How many?
I think 5 total, maybe 4.
How many?
I have 8
parking tickets.
Different kinds of tickets.
Yes.
Can I see it?
They're listed on the...
And when I found out the car had been taken, I still had 30 days to come up with the money. I called her 4 days later to let her know what happened, and I told her that I would come up with the money to get the car out, and I would do my best to start making payments on it again. She had
Doing
told me
your best doesn't help.
At the
Take your
time,
hands
I
out
could-
of your pockets. Doing your best doesn't help. I mean, I'm not screaming and ranting and raving at you. If your husband left you and left you with a baby and you were trying to get yourself together and you found a place to live, all of that is great. Then what you have to say to her, Ms. Tomier, is, and I know that you're looking upset, but what you have to say to her is, look.
I still had time to make the payments before she made the payments for me.
She's a co-signer on your loan. Her credit is destroyed because you didn't make payments for 4 months.
I still
Did
had
you
time.
call?
Yes,
You didn't have. You don't
I
have
did.
time.
The bank said I still had 30 days,
Miss
and so did the
Tomier,
pound place.
you don't have time when you miss payments for 4 months. What you're supposed to do is, if you can, renegotiate with them and say, listen, I can't make these payments. Could I cut them in half? Could I cut them in a quarter? Things are difficult now. But you didn't do that. You didn't do that. And you didn't even call her and tell her that...
I did call her.
Did you call her and tell her you hadn't made the payments September, October,
We talked
November?
many times about it. Yes, we did, because we talked many times, and she's like, Christy, you just need to call him. And I said, I know, I haven't made the payments. And she
Just a
just need to
second.
call him.
I know, I haven't made the payments. That's not what she said to you. She said you have to call them and try to redo something with this loan.
And I did that, and I still had time before she paid up the money.
Just a second. Show me. You show me something in writing that the bank was willing to give you more time after you missed 4 payments. Show me.
They told me I
now,
don't have that.
tell me what they told you. Show
I don't
me.
have that.
Of course you don't. And now after she got the car out of towing, because I have the bills, she got the car out of towing, and she paid the bank off.
So my 30 days
Just
that
listen,
I have doesn't matter?
Listen to me. I'm not telling you had 30 days. You can't show me that you had 30 days. Now that she had to get your car out of impound, which cost how much?
$360.
Okay, $360. In addition to what you owed them for 4 months. And the tickets.
Which were $695.
$695 for the tickets. Otherwise, you couldn't get the car out of impound. Do you understand? The likelihood of you having $1,100.
I had that money within 11 days.
$1,100 plus the 4 months that you owe them on the car is little to none.
I had the money to pay it all off within 11 days. I
Then
still
you
had
should.
30 days.
Then you should have paid her.
But I lost
Then you
thousands of dollars. I'm paying for taxis. I don't have a vehicle. How should I have paid her?
Listen to me. If you had take your hands out of your pockets. If you had said to her before now, what's your first name?
Terry.
Terry, I appreciate everything you did for me. I understand what the problem is. I understand that I screwed up with you. May not have screwed up with other things, but I understand that I screwed up with you and your credit. I can give you $50 a month towards what I owe you for cleaning up after my mess. I don't want you to be out of money. I can't pay you all at once. I have other expenses to pay. I have other bills. I'll give you $50 a month. That's what you should do.
I tried calling her twice, and both times I got hung up on.
What did you say to her when you called?
The first time I called to tell her that the car wasn't stolen, that it had been repossessed, and I told her that within 3 weeks I would be able to get it out. 2 days later, she paid for it all to get out. So I not only lost the car, I lost a lot of money. And then I called her again right after I found out I was getting sued, and I was just like, "You're suing me. You haven't even, you know, we can't work this out any other way." And she said, "No, we want our money back. You have 30 days to pay us or we're suing you." But I still had time on my account. Within 11 days, I could have had the vehicle out.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,089. That's all.
Nick Key says her cousin, Datiana Johnson, used her identity during 2 traffic stops. Datiana claims on the first occasion, she was drunk.
You're going to find this really interesting, Bird. Guaranteed. You see, Miss Johnson over here got stopped by the police for a traffic infraction. The first time you were stopped, what kind of violation was it, Miss Johnson?
Speeding.
Speeding? And how fast were you going?
I think I was going like 60, I think, 50.
Could you keep your voice up, please?
Like 60 or about 55.
And when she got stopped for speeding, according to the complaint, which is, you know, not disputed by the defendant, she gave her cousin's name. Your cousin?
Yeah. Yes,
she gave her cousin's name because she didn't want to get in trouble. And that worked out just fine, except she never showed up to pay the ticket or anything else. She just let it go. Right?
Yes.
Then she got stopped again. And she figured it worked so well the first time, according to her.
Why not?
She gave her cousin's name again.
This must be her favorite cousin.
And what did you get stopped for the second time, Miss Johnson?
Running a stoplight.
In what jurisdiction do you live?
Los Angeles.
She again gave her cousin's name.
Well, can I explain the first time, you know?
It's not funny. I don't think you're funny.
I
don't think you're funny at all. So let me go further, and then we're going to get the details of this fiasco because, you know, I like to sort of lay out the situation. So she gives her cousin's name twice. Her cousin finds out about it. How?
I was getting insurance on my car, and the lady notified me that my license was suspended, and I had 2 tickets on my record. And I could not get insurance until the license was cleared up.
So your license, they suspended your license?
Yes, ma'am.
You're lucky they didn't issue a warrant for your arrest.
Yes. And this was, I was driving around. I didn't find out till like 10 months later that my license, it has been suspended 5 months before I even knew about it.
So she and her cousin discuss it, and she decides to do the responsible civic thing and goes to court and pleads guilty.
I plead guilty.
Yeah, she pleads guilty.
Okay.
And, and they assess her fines. And this is what the case is about. She wants her cousin to pay the fines, all the fines, for the 2 tickets she got.
Your Honor.
And the cousin says, I don't know. We're family. Because I was trying to understand what your defense is. So before I go on, I want to tell you both the following. What you did was a crime, Miss Key. Do you know that?
No.
Well, I'm going to explain that to you. When you go into court and you pled guilty, someone said to you, raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
And then they said to you, what is your name?
Dwayne Key.
And you told them your name. And then they said, how are you pleading? Guilty. You said, I'm pleading guilty. And you're pleading guilty because you were guilty.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you were doing. When you enter a plea of guilty, what you're doing is you are perpetrating a fraud on the court. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a crime. You can't do that. You can't do that. And when you gave her name, that is a crime. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Is this the first time somebody told you it was a crime?
No, it's not.
When for the first time did somebody tell you it was a crime, Miss Johnson?
The second time after I did it.
You mean you didn't know the first time?
Well, the first time I was intoxicated, and I just said the first thing came to my mind.
So not only were you speeding, you were drunk and speeding.
It was my birthday. But I mean, I was turning 21. So I was intoxicated that day.
Judge, the only reason why I pled guilty she agreed to pay me. So we didn't have to go through all these court processes. She said, I'll pay you for it, don't worry about it. Under that, I said, okay. Once I got that money, I told her, this is how much it costs, you owe me this, and it has to be done by August 8th. That was our court date. I didn't get any money but $50 from her.
Just a second. You have a driver's license?
Yes, I do.
Go get it.
Your Honor, at the time she did.
Get your driver's license.
I didn't bring it with me today.
Go get your pocketbook. Get it and bring it in. Fast. Empty your pocketbook. Is that your driver's license?
My California ID.
I'll take it. Now empty your pocketbook. I want
I don't have the driver's license here.
Then empty your pocketbook.
You want me to take everything out of my purse?
I want you to give me your driver's license.
I didn't bring it. I didn't drive today.
Unless this court receives your driver's license, madam, within 3 days, it is my intention to inform the police department in Los Angeles to confiscate your driver's license. Do we understand each other? Do we understand each other?
Yes. Can I ask why, though? I mean, this is
because you perpetrated a fraud on the court. Her driver's license was suspended when yours should have been suspended. Don't you get that?
And I had a fake trip here.
Don't you get that? Your driver's license should have been suspended. You were driving, according to you, drunk. You got a speeding ticket. You gave somebody else's name. The second time, you did the same thing. You ran a red light and gave somebody else's name. And you still have a driver's license. Your driver's license should have been suspended. And if I don't get your driver's license so that you don't have it, it is my intention to inform the police department in Los Angeles, which I may do anyway. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
This belongs to me. Now, you have 30 seconds to tell me why you don't owe those fines.
Because I was under the impression that she did community service.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind?
Well, she told me she was going to do community service.
She's not doing community service for you. Why should she do community service for you? What are you doing?
She was doing it for herself.
I don't understand what you mean she was doing it for herself.
Meaning because that's my name.
I don't understand what you mean she was doing it for herself.
Because she called me and told me that the judge ordered her to do community service. So when she told me that, I thought it was taken care of.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I'm not employed.
How do you support yourself?
I have ways.
How do you support yourself?
My daughter's father.
Supports you?
Child support, basically.
Who do you live with?
My mother.
Why don't you work?
I was employed. I just recently stopped.
Why?
I was working through an agency, and they're looking for another job for me.
What kind of car do you drive?
A Cadillac.
I asked you a question. An answer I want.
A Cadillac.
What year?
98.
In whose name is the car?
It's in my name.
Where is it registered?
In Los Angeles.
Yes.
She just got that car, so she had plenty of time to pay me back. This car is brand new. Paid cash.
You must get a lot of child support. In any event, Ms. Key, to whom do you owe the fines?
The Los Angeles District Court from Traffic Division, I believe.
And how much is owed to them?
Roughly $1,700. One ticket was $1,189, and the second ticket was $565.
Now, Ms. Key.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't get any award for brains, because what you did was so wrong. And I understand that you may feel as if, well, it's family and you didn't want her to get into trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
But what you did was against the law. You do understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you deserve to have a consequence. I assume that you did already have a consequence.
I had enough.
You had enough?
Yes.
I believe that that's probably true. She hasn't had any yet, but believe me, she's going to have plenty, because she's not going to have a license to drive around in this new Cadillac that's in her name. Because I had this, and the police department is going to be no. You get it? Perfect. $1,754, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Lee Ikuzi says former friend Dean Pottle assaulted him. Dean claims he was only protecting himself.
Ms. Iacuzzi, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, my pronoun is he. I made that clear. My name is Lee, and my pronoun is he. And
I didn't see
DOI.
that. I have Lisa.
Yeah, also known as Lee Iacuzzi.
Okay.
I'm a trans.
It is your claim that the defendant assaulted you, Mr. Iacuzzi, and the defendant says that quite the contrary, it was you who assaulted him. How do you know each other?
I met Dean Pottle when I was the Portland International Hostel manager, and I was in charge of the facilities at the time, and I also lived there. Dean came to my residence at the hostel looking for work. He was actually homeless at the time, and I took him in.
All right, so that's how you met him.
Yep.
When did this alleged assault take place?
April 2nd, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances, please.
I had a business transaction with Dean Pottle that failed. He was supposed to do a plumbing job for me in exchange for me mowing a lawn for him. I also had $1,000 with the oil paintings in his house that we were going to exchange for him to do plumbing services. I went over to his house 2 times. Both times I brought my witness, and on the second time I was assaulted.
Tell me how you were assaulted.
I brought my friend Buddy. There was a driveway that separated Buddy, Dean, and myself. I was leaning back on the car that was separated about 4 feet of driveway to Dean's house. Dean was arguing with Buddy. I told Dean that I was going to tell everybody that he's bisexual, and he ran 2 big full steps. Pushed his arm, swung me around into the car.
Just a minute, you went very quickly.
Yes.
You said you ran 2 steps?
No, I was leaning against the car here, and there was Dean's house.
Just a second. First you threatened to tell people that he was a bisexual?
Right, because he harassed me.
How was he harassing you when you came to his house?
I was at his house to collect money and my oil paintings.
I didn't hear how he was harassing you.
He harassed me 3 days before, and I was still upset about the incident. And
How did he harass you 3 days before?
I was at his house. I was massaging his hands. He went into the bathroom to take off his shirt to massage his shoulders. He came out butt naked and asked me to play with his...
So then why would you go back to his house?
Well, I brought a witness with me because I had $1,000 worth of paintings that
Did you get your paintings?
The second time that I arrived at the defendant's house, I did get my paintings.
Then what I'm asking you is, why did you have any exchange with him at all if you had your paintings?
On the day, within the hour of the assault, at the beginning of the assault, I came in, brought a friend, asked him to go get my paintings, which I needed.
So we went and got your paintings?
Right. While I was getting my paintings, Dean came outside.
Just a second. Your paintings are in the car? If all 3 of you were there...
Paintings are in the car.
So now they're in the car.
Right.
Why aren't you in the car leaving?
Because he owes me more money. He owes me money.
Untrue.
He owes money from doing a plumbing job that he refuses to pay me. So I'm asking for my money. He refuses to pay me.
Put your hand down, please.
He refuses to pay me. And we have a verbal exchange. We've been friends for 7 years. I was really upset at what he did to me. I'm going through this transition. I felt he was taking advantage of me.
Keep going.
And words were exchanged. He walked 2 steps up to me and pushed me into a car. I swung back and got him off me. And
when you swung back, you hit him.
Well, he was on top of me. He was on top of me. He pushed me into a car, and he was on top of me.
How was he on top of you?
I have fingerprints. He pushed me like this, and he was on top of me right here when he pushed me. I leaned back, and I hit him.
I only defended myself.
Let me hear what happened, sir.
Well, when I followed him out with the paintings, and the car was out on the street, and I stood back at my driveway, probably 20 feet away from the car. When he went toward the car to put the paintings in the street, she came out of the vehicle and came toward me. Now, she was nowhere near a vehicle. Now, she came toward me very aggressively and yelling profanities and everything else, so I instinctively put my hand out to defend myself. And when she came close to me, I went like this and said, "Get out of Portland," because I felt she didn't belong in our environment there. And I turned to look at him, and he says, "Oh, you touched her first." And when I looked back, she went, bam, like this, right against my lip here. And I staggered back, yelled at me, and that's when she left.
First of all, sit up. Second of all, don't speak until I speak to you. Okay. Do you have a photograph of your injury?
No, I don't.
Do you have a photograph of your injury?
I have documentation of medical records.
I'd like to see it, please. Now you can step up, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Buddy Bercu.
Spell your last name.
B-E-R-C-U. It's Romanian.
Left hand, left arm,
Kind of
Bruce.
difficult the first time. Anyways.
All right, now I ask questions.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I ask questions.
Please.
The paintings are in the car.
Okay, the paintings are in the car. I come back. He comes out, and the car is parked right by the driveway.
Who's in the car?
No one's in the car. They're both arguing with each other, and I'm like, okay, let them vent a little bit and get some of this out, you know, because
Just a second.
I
Where
don't want to
were they
intervene.
as you were putting the paint? I'm speaking. You're not paying attention
When they
to
were
me.
putting
Try-
the paintings were already in the car, you said.
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen. Try
I'm trying.
putting on your listening ears.
I will.
You're putting the paintings in the car,
That's correct.
and he's letting you take the paintings.
That's correct.
Now, the last of the paintings is in the car, right?
That's correct.
Why didn't you both get in the car and leave?
Because, Your Honor, this isn't about that. It's about the disrespect and the way that the abuse had gone down in the first place, and he had not
You're
said he
talking
was
about
sorry.
this incident 3 days before that Lee has just described to me.
Apparently, Lee hadn't worked through the whole incident yet, Your Honor.
Then he was angry.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Got it. See how easy it is to get to the truth?
Can I give you some more truth, or do you want?
Can I get to the truth? Absolutely. Can you give me some more bald facts, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, ma'am.
determine what the truth is.
I understand that.
You understand?
You're the judge.
Okay. So far, we have somebody who wanted their paintings, made 3 trips, got the paintings, but according to you and your Lee's witness, Lee wasn't finished being angry about something that happened 3 days before and wanted an apology.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I got
And then what happened was he said, instead of, I have a restraining order on you, or get out of my property, he said, get out of Portland, which I thought was a little bit wide of a swath for his powers. I mean, Portland's a big
Yes.
place. Then he approached, what he did was he just said, basically, get out of Portland, get out of Portland. And the third get out of Portland, he rushed like he was doing a shot put. And just the whole body, everything came through, but not upward, but straight, like a thrust, and hit. And I could see that she grimaced in pain, and she was crying out. And then what happened simply is a counterattack just to save face. Because I would imagine transitioning to become a man, you have to prove to other men you're a man. So that's why I stayed away from this up until this point. I didn't feel there was any danger up to that point where I had to intervene. I got some heat for that. Say, well, I should have just kicked his, I wasn't going to do that. So anyway, I don't think violence solves anything. And at any rate, what happened was he said, you can't hit me. Or you can't hit me, I'll kill you, or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Something to that effect. Just was really surprised that Lee would counterattack. And then I just stepped in and said, look, you hit Lee first. And just kind of diffused him.
Did you see his bloody lip?
No, he had no bloody lip. There's no. It was the hand. She was like, like this, because it was not a closed fist. And I never use a fist because you could not close it.
I might ask interested whether you use a fist.
But
or
I'm
not.
just saying, you can hurt
I'm
your
not
hand.
interested. Shh, I'm not interested whether you use a fist or not. It's not
Yes, ma'am.
particularly relevant here.
I want you to stop. You're going to be making a fool of yourself. I want you to stop.
Shh.
I apologize.
You're killing me.
When was the first time that you were prescribed Vicodin?
I've had an ongoing neck and condition.
Right, I see that. So you had all kinds of problems that you were prescribed Vicodin for and all kinds of other pain medication.
Right.
Listen, you both behaved badly. You're not supposed to hit her. She's not supposed to come onto your property aggressively, which is exactly what she did. You're not supposed to push her. You're not supposed to punch him. It's over. Finished. Who has an order of protection? Either one of you?
I'm going to get one from both of them.
Well, that's a very, very good idea, sir.
Thank you.
And do me a favor, get one for me, too. That's all. Thank you. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused.
Rick Strand claims ex-wife Marilyn Johnson owes for back child support that she agreed to forgive. Rick says the state is coming after him for the money.
Mr. Strands, is this your ex-wife?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And you have one child together.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your claim is that after you divorced, you were paying child support, not always consistently.
Yes.
And there came a time that your former wife remarried, and she approached you with the idea of asking you to relinquish your parental rights, allowing her husband to adopt your child, a girl, in exchange for forgiving the arrears that you owed her in child support.
Yes, Your Honor.
You thought about that and decided that that would be a good idea.
After a period of time, yes, Your Honor.
and did in fact go to court and relinquish your parental rights.
I didn't go to court. I just went to the lawyer and signed off on the papers.
When did you do that?
I believe it was approximately June of 2005.
So your parental rights were terminated.
Yes, after the adoption was finalized.
Your claim is the state is now coming against you for the $3,800 that you owed in back child support.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you say that they're doing that despite the fact that you had an agreement with Miss Johnson.
Yes.
So you want the $3,800 because lots of bad things have happened to you. Like what, sir?
I've lost my driver's license and my source of income. I'm unable to find work right now.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a truck driver by trade.
Miss Johnson says you never had a contract with her.
Correct.
When was this arrearage accumulated?
It started occurring when we separated before the divorce, on and off, when I'd get laid off in the wintertime and was unable to make payments through my unemployment until I got back to work and started paying again.
How many children did you have?
I have one with him.
And how many others?
2 others.
How old are they?
They are now 22 and 20.
So this was the only minor child?
Correct.
And what kind of work were you doing when you separated?
I was working, I'm not certain, ma'am.
Were you ever receiving any sort of public assistance?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
When?
When we separated in 95.
And how long were you receiving welfare?
Till September of 96, I believe. I'm not certain.
Subsequent to 1996, and you say you're not certain, so it could have been longer.
Or shorter.
Or shorter. Subsequent to that, were you ever receiving any sort of public assistance again?
Yes.
When?
I don't recall the date, but I was receiving daycare assistance when I was working.
And how much child support were you paying, Mr. Strand, when you were paying it?
It started out at $200 a month, and through cost of living increases, it had gone up every 2 years. The last time that it got increased, it went up to $404 every month.
Now, were you aware of the fact that your wife at that time and your daughter were receiving welfare?
I was aware of the fact that they were getting daycare assistance, yes.
Well, at some point she was getting welfare, and at some point she was getting daycare assistance, which is also another form of public assistance. And was it at that time that you were paying $200 a month?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you always paying the $200 a month, or was that during the period of time when you were laid off, seasonally?
I always paid it when I was working, and when I would get laid off or when I was in between jobs, I wasn't paying it. But when I did get back to work, I always made a point to either contact the county or my ex-wife or both right away to let them know where I was working so that it could continue to be collected.
You understand, Mr. Strand, that this is your problem. Even if I believe that you had an agreement with your former wife that she would forgive the arrearages, she can't bind the state with regard to the arrearages. And if this $3,800 bill accumulated at a time when your daughter was receiving any sort of assistance, whether it be daycare or regular public assistance, she can't forgive that money.
Your Honor, there was a separate amount that was owed to the state and an amount that was owed to my ex-wife as the custodial parent. The part that was owed to the state has already been taken care of a long time ago.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
When was that?
That was taken care of when I filed bankruptcy last October. It was a sum of $1,100, and I was able to put that onto my bankruptcy. So the $3,800...
So the state's never been paid?
No, the state was paid while I was paying child support. So much would go to my ex-wife, and so much would go towards what was owed to the state.
I thought you said that money was discharged in bankruptcy.
Not all of it, just what was owed at the time that I filed my bankruptcy. Yes.
So the state did not get their $1,100. You just tried to discharge in bankruptcy.
Yes.
Why didn't you add this money?
Because you're not allowed in the state of Minnesota to discharge
child support
until it gets turned over to your ex-wife or to collections as a debt owed.
Now, why, Miss Johnson, do you think that your former husband agreed to terminate his parental rights?
Your Honor, I believe that he looked at her as a dollar sign, and he was never keeping employment nor paying his bills, and he just felt that this was an easy way to get out of his obligation.
Well, you asked him to do that.
I suggested it, yes.
No, you asked him to do that. You approached him. He wouldn't think about that. You approached him. And what did you say when you approached him?
I just said that you are not being a very good father. My husband is willing to adopt our daughter. If you sign over your rights, I will consider it.
Consider what?
That I could sign off if it was...
If it was what?
If I was able to.
If you were able to what?
Sign it off.
Sign what off?
The back child support.
Well, why can't you? If the state's been paid, you can sign off the back child support.
Because I don't choose to.
But you made an agreement to do that, madam.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did. I don't believe that under those circumstances he would have gone to your lawyer. By the way, who paid his lawyer?
I don't know, ma'am.
I didn't have a lawyer, Your Honor.
Whose lawyer did you go to?
Mine.
I went to her lawyer to sign.
Oh, so you went to her lawyer.
Yes.
made an appointment for him to go to see your lawyer.
He made an appointment, yes.
Who you paid.
Yes.
Miss Johnson, I don't believe you. And I have to make a judgment. You want to try to convince me that you didn't make an agreement with him and not give me this answer I choose not to? Come on.
He was just not paying his child support, Your Honor.
So you said to him, I'll forgive your child support if you sign over your parental rights.
No, I did not. I said my husband has an interest in being my daughter's father, and if you would sign off, he says, could we then forgive that child support? And I said, we'll talk about it. But
no, I don't believe that. That's a lie. That's a lie. So, the two of you signed an agreement when you came here. It was a binding arbitration. Is that correct?
Yes.
I will draft an order to the state. What state?
State of Minnesota.
That I have determined after a hearing that you agreed to vacate any child support arrears that were owing to you in exchange for his agreement to terminate his parental rights and allow your husband to adopt the child. That is my finding. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Ryan Lapp claims his ex-girlfriend's friend, Mark Childress, entered his home without permission and assaulted him. Mark does not dispute the charge.
Mr. Lapp, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you in your home.
Yes, it's true.
Mr. Childress acknowledges that he came to your home. He said you became confrontational.
Not true at all. Sorry.
Not so sure about it. In any event, what I gather from his answer is, if you got a whooping, you deserved it. That'd be a fair statement, sir.
Well, I'm
Let's
disappointed.
see. Mr. Lapp, according to what I read, you and some friends were hanging out in your house. And I don't know what you were doing and hanging around in your house, whether you were drinking or smoking or doing some drugs or whatever you were doing, but you decided to make some prank calls.
Yes.
On what evening was this, sir?
I believe it was on the evening of the 14th of July.
And you made a prank call, one of those prank calls, to the defendant's home. I assume that it's this young lady who was living in your home with you at the time.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she's a married lady?
2 days.
To this gentleman here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who was then stationed in Iraq. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
Ronald McCart.
What is your rank, sir?
I'm a specialist.
When did you get back from Iraq?
December 12th, ma'am.
Okay. So you called the defendant's home and you got this young lady on the phone. And what is your name?
Allison.
Now, did you know Allison?
Yeah, I did.
What had you been drinking, smoking, or snorting that night, Mr. Lapp?
No snorting or smoking anything other than cigarettes, but we were drinking gin that night.
And who was there?
It was me, my witness Andrew, and my neighbor from across the way, and my girlfriend.
What did you say to Allison when you prank called her, sir? Look at me.
There was a lot of prank phone calls being made, but I mean, I was on one of them. And what I said...
I want to know what was said when you called Allison.
I can't remember exactly, but I did say something to
you
the
don't
effect.
remember. So let's hear Allison. Allison, you remember July 14th?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Who called you?
Mr. Lapp called my cell phone.
How did he have your cell phone number? Do you know?
Ryan is a previous boyfriend of mine.
Who's Ryan?
Mr. Lapp.
When did you stop seeing him?
In March.
March of 06? Mm-hmm. And when did you meet your husband? Okay, so he had your cell phone number. What did he say to you, Allison, when he called?
He said that I hope that they shoot your desert rat boyfriend in the head and that they don't find his body so he can't be buried here.
Not nice?
No, definitely not. Shouldn't have ever even been said, and that was totally unright on my part.
So, Allison, what did you do when you got that message?
I was very upset. A lot of crying.
Did you tell Mr. Childress?
Yes.
Okay. So what'd you do?
I listened to the tape.
Oh, she had it on tape?
There was 16, 17 vulgar, sexually abusive, and just derogatory phone calls over a period of an hour and a half made to the house. Very explicit, very sexually demeaning.
Why, Mr. Lapp?
Like I said, I couldn't tell you why. I wasn't even on any of those phone calls except for that one phone call where I did say what I said about her now husband.
But you gave the phone to your friends.
No,
or
I
you
didn't.
Called the number.
No. Other people have her number other than me. That did not come from me. They all know her.
Did you make the phone calls?
Me?
You?
Yeah.
What am I looking at? Who else is there?
Yeah. I made about 2 or 3 myself. But everybody did have her phone number that was there, and they were all using their separate phones.
I didn't ask about anybody else. I asked about you.
Yeah, I made 2 or 3 phone calls.
Stand up. Why?
We just had we just had some against her. I don't know what it was, but we just didn't really like her.
Who cares? I don't like you. I wouldn't call you and say nasty things on your cell phone.
That's fair. We just, we were drinking and it just...
Because you were acting like idiots, and that's what happens to idiots when they drink.
Yeah.
When they drink, they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they become confrontational,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Now I'll hear from you.
After listening to this hour and a half of phone calls, I was so disappointed in Ryan. We'd invited him to our house. We've fed him. We've taken care of him. And it just really disappointed me. I couldn't imagine why he would sink so low. And then to talk about a gentleman who's not here, who's serving our country, that gives him the right to say the things that he did.
Yeah, sitting on his porch and drinking gin.
Exactly.
Right.
I thought this couldn't be the Ryan I knew.
So you went over there to see if somebody else creeped into his skin.
Well, my son-in-law lives in the same apartment that Ryan does. And we had an open door policy. They come to our house, we go to their house.
So you went over there.
I went over there and...
Look at me, Mr. Childress.
Wanted to see what was going on.
So what happened when you got there?
I asked Ryan, I go, do you know who I am? Because he was in bed. I saw that his girlfriend had just left.
So you went into his bedroom?
Yes, which is right next to my son-in-law's bedroom.
How did you get into the house?
The house is open.
Okay.
It's
All right,
like
do you remember,
Yes.
Mr. Lapp, what happened? Because you were pretty drunk that night, according
Yeah,
to
I
you.
wasn't that drunk in the morning, though.
Oh, so this
Maybe
was
a little
the morning.
hungover. This was a little hungover. Yes, when he assaulted me, it was in the morning.
Go ahead.
I woke up, actually, my girlfriend was leaving the house. Once she had left the house,
Was she there when you were making these calls,
Yes,
these
she
crank
was.
calls?
Yes, she was. She was there for part of the night, then she left and didn't come back.
Was she
later that
making
night.
any of the crank calls?
She was on some of those prank phone calls. What had happened was she had left that morning. He came in after that, and I thought somebody was coming to my bedroom. I thought it was my girlfriend returning because she forgot something.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. He locked the door behind him as he came in. Said, do you know who I am? I said, yeah. He told me to stand up. I stood up. He socked me once in the mouth. I fell to the bed. He continued to hold me down and punch me. I couldn't even move. I mean, he punched me 20, 25 times in the side of my face, in my stomach, all through my neck, my jaw. I have the hospital reports of the cervical strain and the contusions to the head and neck for about 3 weeks, which caused me
Not going to make any more prank phone calls, are you?
No. Prank phone calls are bad. Like I said, it was a stupid mistake, but I don't believe it justifies someone putting their hands on somebody.
Okay. Now your version, sir.
I asked Ryan if he knew who I was, because I know he had been drinking the night before, and I asked him what was going on. And immediately he said, I didn't say anything, and flailed his arms up. I took a defensive posture and acted accordingly. I thought he was going to attack me, the way he had been talking on the phone.
I don't buy that, Mr. Children. I don't buy that. You went into his bedroom.
That's correct.
After that, he also proceeded to go out and try to assault him.
I
It's not
assume
like
the
he just
police-
came
I
in there
assume
just
you
to
called
beat
the
me up.
police?
Yes, I called the police right after it happened.
And I
Which he
assume the
also threatened
police,
me not to do.
quiet.
Okay.
And I assume the police came, and I assume you played them the recordings,
Yes, Your Honor.
and they did nothing.
They failed to press charges against either one of us.
Correct. Do you work, Mr. Lapp?
Yes, I do.
Who do you work for?
Fry's Electronics in Sacramento.
How long have you worked for them?
I've worked there about 4 months now.
You have medical insurance?
No, I do not.
Have you paid any of these bills?
No, I have not. I don't have the funds to do so.
I have $2,099 in medical bills.
Yes.
Have any photographs of your injuries?
I did on a cell phone that's broken now, so there's no way to get those.
How many times did you hit him, Mr. Childress?
Probably between 10 and 12 times.
More than that. Way more.
Like, I was in the living room when this all happened because, like, you have, like, where I slept in the apartment, you have to walk past me to get to his room. And when he walked in there, he locked the door, and I heard a lot of, beating and screaming, him telling him to get off. But there was a lot more hits. You could hear Mark hitting Ryan. It was a lot more than 10 or 12.
Mr. Lapp, on a sympathy scale of 1 to 10, you maybe you're a -1. You understand that? To me. You too. Because the pain that you can cause somebody as a result of making crank phone calls to them, and prank phone calls, especially the kind that you did with regard to this young man who was very far away from home and whose life was on the line, so that you two idiots could sit on your porch and drink gin. The things that you said about him are outrageous. And while I understand Mr. Childress's anger at you, the law doesn't give him the right to go over to your home and to assault you. There's no question that the police were so outraged at the phone calls that they winked at the assault. But quite frankly, I can't. You are responsible for his medical bills. Now, then, the only thing that I have to make a judgment about is whether you are also responsible for his pain and suffering, because his medical bills are $2,000. He wants $5,000. That he's not getting. Because there is emotional injury and there is physical injury, and you suffered physical injury as a result of this assault. Did this young lady sue you for emotional injury?
She did not.
You think that one can be as dramatic as the other?
Yeah.
Well, so the swollen face, the black and blue, whatever, suck it up. Mr. Childress is going to pay your medical bills. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's
Thank
all.
you, Your Honor.
Taylor Davy claims ex-roommate Camelia Hansen owes for rent and bills. Camelia is countersuing, claiming Taylor and another roommate stole her clothes.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 76 on the calendar in the matter of Davy versus Hansen.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a
Who are
seat.
the three roommates? Raise your paws. Very good. Ms. Davy, according to your complaint, you, this young lady, and this young lady decided to lease an apartment together. You signed a lease for how long?
Till August 10th, 6 months.
And you were going to share the rent?
Yes, we were going to split it 3 ways equally.
According to your complaint, you moved in February 2000 and?
We moved in the last week of January 2007, and...
But the rent started in February.
Well, we paid a little extra for the last week. We paid $100 extra.
All right.
Well, I did.
That's not, I never knew anything about that. Okay.
So, your complaint alleges that Miss Hansen did not pay her rent for February and did not pay her rent in March.
Right.
And then you did what?
She called me one night asking to get into the house, and I was busy. I wasn't at home, so I didn't let her in, and I told her that I wasn't going to let her back into the house until she paid me the money that she owed me.
So you locked her out?
Well, she was locked out. I didn't try to intentionally lock her out. She didn't offer to come pick up a key to get into the house, and I knew she could...
That's something I don't quite understand. You have an apartment, there are 3 of you on the lease, and only 2 keys. Who wants to explain to me why there were only 2 keys? Yes.
There were only 2 keys because we were the only ones on the lease. Brittany wasn't on the lease.
And there's no way that you could have made a 3rd key?
We could have, but I just let Brittany use my key because she was working late one night and she needed to get in, and I was at my boyfriend's house.
Why didn't you go to a locksmith and make a 3rd key? I don't understand that. How?
I don't know. We could have done that, but didn't.
Anyway.
So we
you
didn't have
locked
the
her out.
3 keys.
You
She
locked
was
her
locked
out.
out.
You locked her out, and now you want your rent.
Yeah, she owes me
Fine.
for 2 months of
Okay.
rent.
Now, Ms. Hansen says that she told you that she could not afford February's rent, and then she was going to pay you in March, but you locked her out first. But this is the
Actually,
beginning
Your
of my
Honor-
that didn't require an answer.
Well,
I'm speaking.
that statement was incorrect.
Well, I said what she said happened is this. So now you have to be quiet. You have to sort of dust out the cobwebs. Now I'm telling you what her defense is. Do you understand?
I do.
She has a counterclaim. She says that you locked her out but took her property, took her clothes. And she can prove that because some of the clothes that belong to her you are wearing on a website on the internet.
Not Taylor, Brittany was.
Brittany, one of whatever. And she wants her clothes back.
That doesn't
Now-
have anything to do with me.
That also didn't require an answer. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Was that a question or an answer?
An answer?
And what do you do for a living?
I waitress and cook at the World Cafe.
And what do you do, Miss Hansen?
I work at a coffee shop.
And you?
I'm front desk clerk at the Holiday Inn.
How old are you?
19.
19.
You moved out when in March?
The very first week of March.
Give me the date.
I think it was the 2nd.
No, it wasn't. No.
No, I think...
Now, let's not play with each other. You didn't
I-
pay March's rent on the 1st. You didn't pay March's rent on the 2nd. When did you call her and tell her you wanted to get into the house?
It was the first Thursday of March, so...
I have down that happened on the 7th of March.
Sounds right.
Okay, well then I was
Not the 1st or 2nd. So you lived there 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Why didn't you pay March's rent?
Because the rent was due on the 6th, and I told her that I couldn't give her March rent until like that weekend. Because
Why?
Because my mom was giving me money for it because I didn't have a job at the time. And my mom got
Why did
paid
you
that
move into an
weekend.
apartment if you didn't have a job?
Because they needed me to be on the lease to get the apartment.
Well, they
because
didn't. Listen
Brittany
to
couldn't
me,
get on the
Miss
lease.
Hansen. Miss Hansen, They don't need an unemployed teenager to sign on the lease. Listen to me carefully. They don't need an unemployed teenager to sign on a lease in order for a landlord to say, oh, now they're really responsible because we have 3 teenagers, only one of whom has a job, maybe. That's not why they needed you to sign on, unless you had a job.
No, not the leasing company needed me to sign on. Taylor needed me to sign on the lease so she could get the apartment because Brittany couldn't get a co-signer, and I got a co-signer.
Who co-signed for you?
My mom.
Oh,
That's
great.
false.
Perfect.
I wouldn't have been able to get on the lease without a co-signer.
But she forged the co-signers.
That's
so.
not true at all.
Cute. They're cute. They should still be home and under somebody else's roof, but they're cute. Listen, you have to pay rent. You live in an apartment, you have to pay rent.
I totally agree.
Right, so you owe February and March's rent.
I didn't live there for March. She kicked me out at the beginning of March.
No, you lived there the first week in March.
Then I would have paid her the first week of March, that like day by day that I lived there, but they kicked me out of my house.
No, listen to me. I'm going to get to your council claim in a second. Okay. You may not be disappointed, but I have to explain to you that when you live in an apartment, you can't be a baby. And if you sign a lease and if you're supposed to pay rent, you say the first of the month you have to pay rent. And you don't take on the responsibility of an apartment unless you can afford it. Are you still living in the apartment?
Yes, I am.
Who lives there?
I found 2 roommates on Craigslist.
Are they okay?
Yeah, they're great.
Where is she living?
Eureka, I believe. California.
Okay, so she left.
Yes, she moved out at the beginning of April.
Okay, did she pay rent in February?
Yes.
Did she pay rent in March?
Yes. Yeah. She didn't pay right then, but she's paid me back.
So you covered it?
Yes.
For both of them?
Well, I covered it at the start of the month because she got her paycheck like the second week or something, so she didn't have it right then.
And what was everybody's share of the rent?
$250.
Okay, now, you're going to tell me about your clothes.
Well, the day that they locked me out, told me that I couldn't come back.
Should have had your own key.
I had my own key. I let Brittany use it.
That's
she
your
didn't
problem.
have her own key.
No, that's your problem. You
Okay.
should have had your own key. Then nobody can lock you out.
I went and got my own key after that, after they locked me out for a day.
Fine, so you went and got your own key, so you weren't locked out.
Yeah, but that day that they locked me out, they told me that they were kicking me out. I couldn't live
Well,
there
they
anymore.
could have told you that, but that's
So
not true. They can't kick you out because you're on the lease.
Well, I didn't want to live there anymore after that anyway, because they were
rude to you.
Yeah, and they were bullying me.
Okay.
So
you moved
I
out.
went. So I went the next day to get my things, and I had to get a key from the leasing office. And my room had been gone through. Half of my closet was empty. He was there. He can vouch for me. I asked them for my things back. They had put locks on their doors, and they wouldn't give me anything back, and said that they didn't have anything. A couple weeks later, a friend of mine was showing me Brittany's MySpace pictures, and she was wearing my underwear on on a photo of her topless and just in underwear, and they were mine.
You recognized your underpants?
Yeah.
You recognize your underpants?
They're like specialty kind. They're not just like regular white underwear. They're like, you can buy them from like a boutique.
Miss Davy, just for my own edification, did you put a picture of yourself?
Oh, me? No. I don't do that.
Who did? This one?
Brittany.
Raise your hand if you put up a naked picture of yourself.
I'm not
on-
naked in the
What is it?
I'm in underwear. They're my underwear. They're not her underwear. I don't know why she.
Why would you put... Stand up.
Why would she put underwear?
Please. Why would you put a picture of yourself on the internet in your underwear?
Photography thing. He wanted American Apparel looking pictures, and there was one in my underwear.
Very stupid. Okay. You live to regret that when you're 30, maybe even when you're 25. Have you done anything like that again?
No.
Yes. Before?
No.
Maybe. No. Just once?
No, well, like there was more than one picture, but it's not that big of a deal, I don't think.
It is a big deal. You have to think about what you're doing. There are all kinds of perverts and creepy people out there that sort of surf the internet looking for dumb young girls who put up pictures of themselves in their underwear or worse. Don't do it again.
Okay.
Sit down. Do you have any other proof that you took your clothes?
I don't really have proof that they took my clothes, but I have a list of some of the clothes that they took, and along with stealing my clothes, they posted things about me on the internet. Like, they made a couple websites about me, saying really, really horrible things. They've been harassing me. It's just showing what kind of people they are. They're not good girls. They're not good people. And they stole all my clothing, locked me out of my house, and are harassing me for it.
No, I don't.
I don't know whether she does or whether she doesn't.
I have a pair of Roxy jeans and a pair of Gap jeans that were given to me by her because they were a size 5, which doesn't fit her.
That's not true. I never gave her any clothes.
She wants them back.
She can have them.
They've been denying that they've had anything this
I
whole
haven't
time.
been in
Listen
any
to me,
contact.
I have no time or to have less patience for this. You owe her $500 for rent for February and March. You're going to send her back her 2 pairs of jeans and anything else you might find that belongs to her. Do you get it?
I do.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
26-year-old Sarah Blount is suing her former friend, Felicia Ale, for losing her backpack. Sarah claims Felicia gave the backpack to a stranger.
Ms. Blount, you are suing the defendant for a backpack and its contents.
Yes, Your Honor.
Lots of expensive goodies in this backpack that you had left in her car.
Yes.
The defendant has a rather interesting defense, which I'm going to allow her to explain to Officer Byrd here, because he's going to be fascinated with the defense. How did you know each other?
We're acquaintances, former co-workers. We've known each other for about a year, and we had both been at the same festival.
What kind of festival was it?
It was a music festival.
When?
It was the weekend ending on Sunday, June 26th.
What were you doing there?
I was working. I have a second job. I was working for the brewery there, and so I had been working every day and camping at night. And
the defendant, what were you doing there?
I was working for the promoter of the festival. I've worked for him for the past 3 years. I'm in charge of ticket sales, handling cash for the festival.
Good. So you saw each other there during the weekend, and
Yes.
according to what I read in your complaint, Ms. Blount, the defendant was going to give you a ride home.
Yes, she had offered on the last day on Sunday. She said, "How are you getting home?" I said, "I'm not sure yet." I knew.
Where do you live?
We both live in Portland. Maybe 45-minute drive from
where
the
festival was held.
Yes.
Okay. So she said, "How are you going to get home?"
Yes, and she said, "I'll give you a ride home. Here are my keys. Put your pack in my car." I want to emphasize before anything else that this pack was full of everything I needed for 4 days on cold nights in Oregon. I work at a camping outdoor store. It wasn't cheap, shoddy merchandise. It was very nice. It was several of the items were brand new.
Okay.
A little while later, it started raining. Felicia approached me, said, "You know what? I'm going to go home a little early. I can't give you a ride home." So I said, "Well, let me go out of your car now." She goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. At 5:30, we will meet." We made plans to meet on the road where the road forks on her way out en route to the exit.
And what time were you going to leave?
I was working that evening, so I wasn't leaving until later in the evening.
Okay, you were going to leave at 5:30.
I had approached Sarah in the beer garden where she was working and said that it was raining and I wasn't going to stay until the festival was over.
So you were leaving early. You were
So I was going to leave early. So I asked her what would be a good time to meet. We both agreed that 5:30 would be a good time. That was a few hours before the meeting time is when I had approached her.
Fine. So what happened?
So she said, "Let's meet where the road forks and we'll meet at my car. If I'm not there, go up to the parking lot," which I knew where that was because I had gone to put my pack in her car at the parking lot. So at 5:30 on the dot, I stopped what I was doing and I went to the road. I couldn't find her. I couldn't see where she was, so I went up to the parking lot. I couldn't see her car there. I'm looking for her car, which is a station wagon. It's a white wagon. I look up and down. I walk up and down the road for approximately 15 minutes, thinking, you know what? I have to get back to work. I don't see her. So I go back to work. I had no cell phone at the time because it was in the pack, and nobody's cell phone had any reception at the point, so I couldn't get a hold of her immediately. So I waited until I'd got another ride later that evening, and I called her, I think, 2 times, and didn't hear any response until the following morning.
Okay. What happened, Ms. Hale?
I went to my car. I waited at my car till about 5:33 is when I got in my car. I got to the corner at 5:36 and waited for a few minutes. And I didn't see Sarah. So when I had gone to speak with her earlier at the beer garden, she had expressed to me that she needed her pack. So I didn't want to leave the festival with her backpack, knowing that she needed it. The place where I was a one-way out road, and I was blocking the exit to leave the festival. So I couldn't wait there. There happened to be a gentleman sitting in a chair who was a staff member. He He had a staff shirt on, sitting in his chair, and I told him what was going on, that I was supposed to meet this woman to give her backpack there. She wasn't there. Would it be all right if I left it with him? He was...
You hear those groans?
He was a staff member. He was a staff member. He was going to be there for the next hour and a half. She wasn't there, and she'd told me she needed her bag. I had no way of getting a hold of her, so I figured the best thing to do is to leave it in the exact spot where we're supposed to meet. It's a visible spot, and he was going to be there for the next hour and a half. I told him her name, who she worked for, and he said, "Does she know to meet you here?" And I said, "Yes, but it's 5:36. And it's, you know, by this point I had been there a couple of minutes. There were cars behind me trying to leave, and I had to go."
Got it? Yeah. All right, can I say, I had no idea I was looking for a man, a stranger.
The law is pretty clear. You do not owe her extraordinary care in taking care of this backpack, which you gratuitously said you can put in my car. You owe her what I perceive to be ordinary care. The question is, did you exercise ordinary care in first waiting according to you, giving you every possible benefit of the doubt, 6 minutes beyond the 5:30, 6 minutes, not a half hour, not 40 minutes, not an hour, 6 minutes beyond which you claim she was late. That's giving you every benefit of the doubt. Let's say your watch might have been off a minute or two.
Okay.
Okay? Did you exercise ordinary care in turning this backpack over to someone that, despite the fact that you say he was a staff member because you didn't know, he didn't know her, he didn't know what she looked like, she didn't know him, you didn't get a telephone number, you didn't ask him for any identification, you could have said, "Listen, I want to give this to you, but do you have your ID on it so I can take down your name and your phone number in case you don't hook up with us so that she can get in touch with you?" Nothing. You take the backpack and you say, "Here, take it, give it to her. She's supposed to be at 5:30. She's not here at 5:30. It's no longer my responsibility." The law doesn't give you that right, Ms. Ale. The law says you have to exercise ordinary care. And unless you did that, unless you got this man's identification information, his telephone number, a place where he could be contacted so that in case they couldn't get together, she would have some way of contacting him, not just a man who was wearing a shirt that indicated he worked there.
Well, I had no way of contacting her.
You did not exercise ordinary care. You added up the things in the backpack?
Yes.
What did it come to?
$978.
Can I see the bills, please?
Okay, I have receipts from my place of employment where
Can I
bought
see
them.
it, please?
Your Honor, may I say something?
Yes.
The previous place where we both worked, we had special deals that we were able to purchase from there. We sold a lot of high-end camping items. We also returned a lot of them as well, and were able to resell those items. Employees were able to go to those sales for employees only the night before they were open to the public and purchase those items for extremely discountable prices.
I have claimed nothing
just a second
from those purchases.
So all that I want to say is that I don't know what was in the backpack. The backpack was put in my car. I took the backpack out of my car, but we were able to purchase items for an extremely discounted
And that's
rate.
irrelevant in this case because...
Oh, just a second.
Okay.
It's not irrelevant if that's not what you paid for them.
Exactly.
Okay, and what you're testifying to under oath is that you paid $978 for these items. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, and I have receipts for the biggest ticket items.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $978. That's all.
Barbara Zeraldo says her granddaughter, 15-year-old Tasha LaChance, is responsible for overdraft charges on their linked bank accounts. Tasha claims her ATM card was stolen.
Ms. Zeraldo, this is your daughter and her husband?
Yes, it is.
And this is your granddaughter?
Yes, it is.
Clearly, from what I've read, you adore your granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
The first part of your lawsuit says that you loaned your daughter money to have your granddaughter's hair done for something and she didn't pay you back. That was a while ago. I'm not dealing with that because of the second part of your lawsuit. Because the second part of your lawsuit says that you opened up a bank account for your granddaughter.
That's right, yes.
And you put some money in it, and that bank account was linked to your account.
Yes, it was.
And you gave her a bank card.
Yes.
So that when she needed money for things, she could go in and take out some money from the bank card.
Yes.
And at some point, someone overdrew that bank account, and they charged the linked account, which was yours.
Yes.
And you believe that your daughter should be responsible for that because she's the child's mother.
Yes, I do.
Who asked you to open this account for your granddaughter?
No one did. My daughter and her husband have gone through a lot of financial difficulty, and I know it's been very hard. So last September, I decided to open a bank account for Tasha so I could transfer money into her account when she needed it for things like lunch money or if she needed clothes or any emergency, as I felt she was at the age that she did need this extra money.
Oh, that's very nice of you, Miss Ciraldo. That's very, just a second.
Okay, sorry.
That's lovely of you. Granddaughter, if you need money for clothes, you call Grandma.
That's right.
And I'll tell you to come on over and I'll give you $20, $50, whatever you need. I want you to have it within reason.
Yes.
You live close by?
No, we don't. That's why I opened the account. And
How far away do you live?
35 miles.
Not the other end of the world. How often do you see your granddaughter?
Not as often as I'd like to.
Well, I understand that not
yes.
as often as you like. How often do you see her?
Maybe once every 2 months.
Okay. Sit down, please. I want your daughter up, please. What happened to the money, Tasha? Because part of the thing that your grandmother is complaining about, my dear, is that she didn't receive a satisfactory explanation. See how red you're getting? It's going to be all over after today. Now you're going to tell me how that money got taken out of your grandmother's account. Your grandmother and you are going to be friends after today. She knows she made a mistake. Well, if she doesn't know it, I'm telling her that she made a mistake by giving a 15-year-old an ATM card, access to money. I wouldn't do it. They don't know what they're doing. They'll go and buy drugs. They'll go and buy things that our parents have no control over. Ridiculous. How did the account get overdrawn?
The night that...
Look at me right here.
The night that this must have happened, I was babysitting. And I lost my bank card on the Friday before that Sunday because I get off school early.
Did you tell your grandmother you lost the bank card?
No, because I thought maybe I would have found it or called the bus line and they might have found it or something.
What else did you lose other than the bank card?
Just some pictures and stuff that were in my wallet.
Did you lose your whole wallet?
Yes.
The whole wallet?
Yeah.
Did you report the wallet stolen to anyone?
Just I called the bus line and asked if they had found one.
Did you go and file a report anywhere?
Yes, at the police station.
Did the police report indicate that there was a bank card in there?
I told them that my bank card was in there.
Did you tell your parents that the bank card was in there?
Yes.
Did she?
Yes.
Did you tell your grandmother that the bank card was stolen?
No, because I didn't find out that somebody had done that to my bank, maybe a couple days after.
That's why you call her and say, please call and cancel the bank card.
I called and canceled the bank card.
You did?
Yes.
When?
Sunday night, because I figured if I didn't find it, then somebody might have done something with it, so I didn't want
When was the
anything
money
back.
taken out?
I don't know.
Before or after?
The Saturday.
Before?
Yes, before she reported the card gone. Yes.
Yeah. The only problem with your story, my dear, is that somebody had your PIN number.
I don't give out my PIN number at all.
Somebody had your PIN number. What?
Well, since she's done this, we found out her PIN number. Sorry, since this has happened, we found out her PIN number. She never told us her PIN number. We didn't know it before the incident happened. We since have known what her PIN number was, and it wasn't the best choice of PIN numbers.
Which was?
Her birth year. So again, a 15-year-old...
And I had my wallet information in there that had that and my phone number and
Again,
stuff.
a 15-year-old not making a very good choice of a
Your PIN
PIN
number
card.
was 6 digits?
4 digits. She was born in 1990.
Ah, so that was your PIN number.
Hers, yes. Not a very smart choice. No.
That's why we don't do that, Miss Ciraldo.
Well, the bank, that's why they're holding me responsible, because she used
Somebody
birth date
had
as
a PIN number.
You're not allowed to use your birth date as a PIN number.
Okay, now.
So they won't take responsibility. They say it's mine. I have to pay
It is yours.
Yes.
It is yours. It's yours for giving a 15-year-old access to money, and it's your fault that it wasn't reported quickly enough when it first happened.
The only way I found out what was happening was the way I did the money. I would transfer it online for her, just $20 at a time. That's all she had access to. and I did it online. When I went online 2 days after this incident happened, I suddenly noticed $500 overdrawn.
Mr. Raldo, what you just said to me is ludicrous. If she only had access to $20 at a time, how come you were overdrawn $500?
Because what happened was whoever did this put an empty envelope with a note in it. The note said, excuse me, F you back, and put it in the bank machine, then withdrew the $500.
Mr. Raldo,
yes.
I have 11 grandchildren, and I guarantee you that I love each and every one of them as much as you love Tasha.
Yes.
I wouldn't think of giving them a credit card at 15.
No.
I wouldn't think of giving them a bank account with access to money, because when they're 15 years old, they're stupid. They don't make good choices.
No, you're right, they don't.
I'm telling you right now that your mother is not responsible for this. So if you think she is, you are mistaken.
But she did tell me she would be responsible. She told me that she would pay me back.
I don't care what she told you, madam. I'm telling you that this is a court, and you chose to open up a bank account for a minor, the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. Ridiculous.
But could I explain, Judge Judy, the circumstances surrounding it?
You just told me. They were going through hard financial times. You wanted her to have some of the extras, and the best way for her to do that, you told me that. I listen. I absorb everything. And I'll tell you something else. If I ever opened up a bank account for one of my grandchildren, 15-year-old, and I did it between the two of us, my kids would be furious.
But she didn't have access to my accounts, Judge Judy. There was no access to my accounts.
They didn't have access to your account, but you're complaining about it. She overdrew that account, and they took it out of your bank account.
Well, because an empty envelope was deposited in the bank machine.
Mr. Raldo,
yes.
That's what happens when you entrust a 15-year-old who has friends, either her friends, or whatever. Right? Right?
What up?
Cookie?
Yes.
It's not your daughter's responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility for being a foolish grandma.
But I was lied to so much. There was 3 different stories going on.
I don't care whether 3 different stories. You're asking me to say that your daughter and her husband are responsible for something that either their daughter, her friends did, or that something happened where her wallet was taken and somebody else managed to get a PIN number from the information contained in that wallet. All very possible.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, you had no right to open up this bank account for her.
Yes,
and if you chose to do that, it's your responsibility.
It was an expensive mistake.
It was an expensive mistake, but don't try to blame it on somebody else. It was your mistake. Don't do it again.
No, I wouldn't.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Steve Ramirez claims former live-in girlfriend Jennifer Flynn refuses to return his belongings. Jennifer is countersuing for money owed and for an assault.
Mr. Ramirez, you and the defendant dated and, I gather, lived together for a brief period of time. You had one child with you at the time?
Yes.
And it is your claim that she, after an argument, threw you out with your child and kept your property. The defendant says that when you left, you owed her some money, and instead of the money, you said to her, just keep my stuff. I don't want it. Sell it. She's also counterclaiming because she says you assaulted her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When did you move in with Miss Flynn, Mr. Ramirez?
She moved in with me about 4 months after we met to my home that I was renting.
Was that you moved in together?
This year.
2007.
2005.
When was it?
2005.
And when did you move into the apartment that you left?
We moved in at the end of July of 2006.
And you have one child. How old is that child?
She's 8.
And you have custody of her?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened when you left, sir.
Well, when she kicked me out, me and my daughter, she just kicked me and my daughter out.
Well, tell me about that day.
Well, we were talking, and I have an invention.
You have an invention?
Yes, ma'am, that me and my brother came up with. And Miss Flynn stated that she wanted 10% of something that doesn't exist. And I said, no, how am I going to give you 10% of something I don't even have? So that's where it started, and that upset her, like, just totally upset her. And she said, what? And I said, how am I going to give you 10% of something I don't even have? I can't.
What do you mean you don't even have? You had an invention, you just told
Well,
me.
yes, ma'am, but it's just in the process now. I haven't.
Well, I assume that what she was saying is that in exchange for whatever financial contribution she was making, were you working at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
You were both working?
Yes.
Well, I assume she was saying that because you lived together as a couple, she wanted 10% if anything happens with this invention. And you said, no, I don't think you're entitled to that. So you're entitled to say that to her, Mr. Ramirez. If she wants 10% or 50%, then you got to get married. Then that's what the state does. The state says, well, then property becomes community property. or joint property. But you're not married, she's not entitled to anything, so you're absolutely within your rights to say, I don't want to give you 10%. Is that when she threw you out?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say?
Get out of my house. You and your daughter can get out of my house.
And is that what you did? You left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you left your things?
Yes, ma'am.
What things did you leave there?
I have a list of things, numerous things.
They better be big items, sir, because I don't get involved with saucepans and dishes.
That's just some of the things. That's not the personal belongings, like pictures and...
I'm going to cross certain things out here, Mr. Ramirez, that I think are ridiculous. Charbroiled barbecue with 2 propane tanks. Prairie dining. Did you purchase all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you purchase them while you and the defendant were living together?
No, ma'am. Prior.
You had these things?
Everything on that list is prior to our relationship.
Let us take a look at this. Are any of those things that you purchased while you were living together?
Probably some DVDs and CDs.
Other than that, those are all his things, correct?
Yeah.
You have to return them to him, all of them. Do you understand?
Oh, there's no neon picture.
Okay, cross it off.
There is a neon picture, Your Honor.
Cross it off. Okay, good. Inconsequential, all of those things within 5 days, sir. You arranged to have the movers there to pick them up. Isn't that nice?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. You say he owes you money.
Yes.
And he assaulted you. Go.
Actually, the alleged invention that he has is something that my doctor asked him to make, and I actually have a picture of it.
What does that have to do with anything?
That's why I had asked him for 10% of his alleged
entitled
invention.
to ask.
So
he's entitled to say no.
My counterclaim is what he owes me when he was not working for October, November, and December.
You were not working October, November, December?
October and November, Your Honor.
And December. Well,
just a second. Were you working in December, sir?
No, ma'am.
So you didn't contribute to the household for those 3 months?
No.
So how much money do you owe her?
I don't feel I owe her anything.
Why not?
That's the way relationships work, Your Honor.
Why? Did she work all the time?
No, she doesn't work.
She doesn't work at all?
No.
How do you support yourself?
I receive disability and Social Security.
What's the nature of your disability?
I have a blood condition that affects my ankles to where I get a lot of blood clots, and I'm in the hospital a lot. I get a lot of infections.
So you were supporting the household and paying the mortgage on your Social Security? You have children?
I have 1 child.
How old?
9. Also,
just a second. Was your arrangement when you moved in that you would pay half the mortgage, sir?
No, ma'am.
What was your arrangement?
Just that we're going to move in together and help each other out as a relationship does.
No. How did you handle the finances, Mr. Ramirez?
Well, I was working prior, and then I just...
When you were working prior, how did you handle the finances?
We just share them.
How did it work? You came home and you all both deposited checks into a joint account?
No, ma'am.
Well, how did it work? I want to know.
I would hand her cash and pay the bills.
How much?
It just depended on how much the bills were at the time.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
How much would you hand her each month?
Maybe $1,200.
Each month?
No, not each month.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, sir. You don't play with me, Mr. Ramirez.
Yes.
You think you're smarter than I am?
No, ma'am.
What else?
He also owes me for his vehicle insurance from May to January, which I do have invoices for.
Just a second. Why did you pay in May? He was working in May.
Because I had added him to my insurance because he couldn't get it on his own. And with the money that he was giving
No, my
me-
darling. Listen to me. In May, he was working, so he was giving you money. In May, June, July, August, he was working. He was giving you money.
Not
you
enough.
Paid who cares? That's something I'm getting involved with. So far, he owes you $1,800, period.
Okay.
What's next?
So he owes me then $120 for vehicle insurance for October, November, and December, ma'am, when he was not working.
October, November, and December. You had a car?
Yes, ma'am.
She was paying the insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And you weren't paying
Helping.
anything?
And
But-
January.
Just, you weren't paying anything?
Not a penny.
Okay. How much a month?
$40 a month.
Okay. So it was 3 months or 4 months?
4.
160. What's next?
The satellite dish was a household bill.
Forget it. You still have the satellite dish, no?
I still have it.
Keep going.
I'm also countersuing for the assault.
Well, let me hear about the assault.
Okay. One night I was just in my house, in my room with my friend.
When?
Approximately the 14th of January.
After he had left?
After he had left. He came back into my house. He still had a key because his stuff was there, so I didn't change the locks. I changed my alarm code. I thought that was good enough. He came in anyhow. I had my room closed. When I opened my bedroom door to see who had come in, he was already right there. and he asked me
What were you doing there?
I went to pack my daughter's things in her room so I can...
Did you call her first?
No.
Why not?
I have a key.
You have no right to do that. You're not a tenant there. You hadn't paid rent. You have no right to go
Yes.
in.
When I received my first check, after I got my job, I handed her my first check.
No.
What date?
You didn't.
What date?
Like January, first week of February.
You mean after you moved out, you handed her a check?
No, Your Honor.
Baloney, Mr. Ramirez. Baloney. You had no right being there. None. So what happened?
He said, who's in there? And I told him, none of your business. He pushed the door open like this, and the door hit me in my face because I was on the other side of the door. I proceeded to push the door and tell him that he wasn't going to come in, that it was none of his business. And with his strength, he pushed me into a dresser that I had by the door, which bruised my arm.
Why did you do that, sir?
I have pictures of my lip where the door busted my lip.
Can I see it, please?
And my witness was in my room. When he saw that it was just my friend Diana, he left. I told him I was calling the police. I had the police on the phone, and
Temper, temper,
I
Mr.
also
Ramirez.
have a statement from
Temper,
my-
temper, Mr. Ramirez. Ever been arrested?
Yes.
Domestic violence?
Yes.
What do you have to say for yourself, sir? There's no question in my mind that you entered the house, that was a trespass, and if you assaulted her, that rises to the level of burglary. Do you understand? You should tell me, did you lose your temper?
No, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what you did. There's no question that you hurt her.
I entered the room, the house, in intent to gather my daughter's things from her room and some of my belongings. And then she came out. She said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "Get in my house." I handed her the key, and I left.
No.
Didn't push the door open?
No, Your Honor.
Didn't push the door?
No.
Didn't cut her lip?
No.
You have a police report?
No, ma'am, I didn't let the police come. So, but he was not there to get his daughter things. He called me later after he left and said, "Why did you do that?" "I just wanted to sit down and hang out with you and talk. I thought we could talk." And I said, "Why would you think that?"
He doesn't think that you're allowed to say no.
Well, I am saying no.
Yes.
And,
I think maybe he gets that now. Want to step up? Tell me your last name.
Kalish.
Ms. Kalish, you were there on the evening that Mr. Ramirez came into the house?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
We were in her room just watching TV, and we heard the front door open. She got up to see who entered the house, and before she got to the door, he was already standing there. She opened the door, and he pushed the door open and pushed her.
Did you say anything about calling the police?
She did call the police. I was there. She
And what
called
happened?
the police, telling them that he had came in the house without permission, but the police didn't show up.
They never showed up?
Well, she didn't want them to come over.
Why?
The calls can take an hour to 2 or 3 hours, and I didn't want to waste their time. He was already gone. I felt safe in the house, and I knew that I could just call back if he came back.
Now, what was the date that this happened?
January 14th, around there.
Why is this picture dated February 9th?
Because that's when I printed the picture, and my digital camera, once I changed the batteries, the date doesn't set. So I have a digital camera. I have the camera with me. I didn't print the
Did you
photos.
seek any medical treatment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You owe her $1,960. Do you understand? And you can go pick up your stuff within 5 days, the stuff that's on this list. Don't go back and bother her anymore. She doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Do you understand?
It's mutual.
It's finished. Over. Got it?
Mutual.
Thank you. That's all.
Rachel Maffitt is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brad Simmons, for unpaid rent and bills while they lived together. Brad claims he owes her nothing.
Ah, Bird, I really am so glad I don't use this internet thing. Miss Maffitt, you met the defendant on something called MySpace.
Yes.
Which is on the internet where people go to meet each other rather than, meeting each other for a cup of coffee or whatever. You exchange information. And you knew him for a brief period of time, and he moved in.
Yes, he asked to move in.
And it is your claim that while he was there, he paid no rent and bills. He owes you $2,000 for the time that he lived with you. Mr. Simmons says that there was never a financial agreement when he moved in. It was only when he left, unceremoniously, according to Miss Maffitt. You left her a note?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I packed up all my stuff while she was gone because of the fact that she was a little unstable. I didn't feel comfortable staying there. I packed all my stuff, so I headed out of there, and then I went back to the house and waited for her to come home. And then I told her face to face.
Oh, okay. Well, not as bad as I thought.
Your Honor, I do have a note.
You do have a note?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see the note. When did you get the note?
When I came home and found all of his stuff gone from the house.
The note was only...
Okay, so you write this letter because you believed she was involved with a couple of other people at the same time she was involved with you. It's a very hurt letter, and you say, I can't talk to you right now. You want to communicate with me through MySpace because you're too hurt. You couldn't trust her. Okay, got it. When did you move in, Mr. Simmons?
It was sometime before Christmas. I don't know the exact date.
You remember the date?
I do not. It was probably after 3 or 4 dates, though.
Sometime in mid-December.
Yes, ma'am.
Of 06. And you moved in at her invitation.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you move out?
I moved out, it was the first week of February.
So let's say
It was before Valentine's Day.
Remember when he moved out?
It was before Valentine's Day, but he was over at my house probably 5 days a week after that. He promised that we would get back together, and
so he lived with you
me.
maybe 6 weeks.
Right.
That is untrue. I did not go after.
Did anybody live with you before, Miss Maffett?
Not in that apartment, no.
Has anybody lived with you since?
No.
So you weren't looking for somebody to share the bills with?
No, I was not.
So what money do you think he owes you? For the
He
6 weeks that he was there?
He lived there for probably 8 weeks, and
6 weeks. Keep going.
And he did say that he would pay for half of the bills. He actually asked me if he could live with me. He says that he thinks it may be the L word, and so that he wanted to come live with me because his family was unstable, and he said that his father was beating him.
That is untrue, Your Honor.
Listen to me. He left. You have no downside.
Well, I paid for all of the food. He eats probably enough for 3 people a day.
Yeah.
And he did promise me to pay $2,000 from a bonus that he was going to be getting from his new job. And every time I would go to pay bills, he would say, oh, no, it's okay, you're going to get that other money, so we can do this instead and have fun and eat out and things like that. So I did spend money on things that I normally wouldn't have if I were living alone. I work 2 jobs, and I am trying to finish school, so I'm just barely eking by.
Mr. Simmons says he was there.
He gave me $300 when he first moved in, which we promptly used on food and going out to eat.
Was it 3 or 5?
It was $500. I gave her $300 when I moved in, like she said, and then at another point, about 2 days before we broke up, we went out to eat with my uncle at Johnny's Pizza, and I gave her another $200.
Do you feel, Mr. Simmons, as if you owe her any money?
No, ma'am.
Was there ever an agreement for you to pay rent there?
No, ma'am. When I moved out, I figured the $500 I gave her, plus I maintained the upkeep of the house, and I cooked. So I feel that's...
You don't get credit for that.
I feel that the money that I gave her at the time that I was there was enough.
You gave $500?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your rent, by the way?
My rent is $580 a month.
He's paid you enough, Miss Maffett.
Miss Judge Judy, I actually have an email here stating that he was going to give me the $2,000.
Oh, then I'll see it.
I never sent an email. She did have access to my email password.
No, I did not.
Just a
because
second.
it was saved on her computer.
Just a second.
Judge, I also have emails saying that he would lie in court, that he admitted to lying in court. He admitted to cheating on me with men.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Oh, listen, I'm not interested
that he
in
wasn't working when he was working.
That has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. The only thing that has to do with me is whether or not you just refuse to put a period and say, made a mistake, shouldn't have invited this guy in to live with me after knowing him for just 4 dates. You have no downside. He gave you $500. He was there for 6 weeks, and I'm not sure that you wrote this thing yourself. Case is dismissed, Miss Maffett. Put a period. It's over. Goodbye.
Mary Freer says stepson Jonathan Freer owes for destroying her home and her car. Jonathan says his actions were a result of his drug addiction.
Miss Freer, the defendant is your stepson.
Yes.
How long were you married to his father?
20 years.
Did he live with you during any of that period of time?
Not until recently. He lived with his mother. We saw him until he was 5 years old, and then she basically stole him. And we didn't see him again until he was 18.
Well, your lawsuit says that there came a time when your stepson rented a house from you and your husband. It was a house that you and your husband owned. It was a rental property.
Yes.
And he was supposed to pay rent. He did for a while, then he sort of fell off with the rent. He also was using a car that belonged to who, you or your husband?
Myself.
And your husband unfortunately passed away this past summer. And when you went to the rental property, found that he had moved out and the place was totally trashed.
Yes, it was.
And the car was likewise totally trashed.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want him to pay for that.
He should.
And his defense seems to be that if he had a debt to take care of the house, not the rent, just the condition of the house and the car, the debt was with his father, not with you. And when his father passed away, the debt vanished. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes.
You don't really believe that, do you?
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything funny. I guarantee you that by the time you're finished here, you will not be laughing. How old are you?
26.
How do you support yourself?
I work.
Doing what?
I install glass in buildings.
When did you move into this rental property?
A couple of years ago.
Tell me when. Don't be smart and don't be smug. Are you a drug addict or an alcoholic?
I was.
When?
Back when I was living there.
Really? Both drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
See, I was being sort of facetious because I was going to say you had to be on drugs or alcohol or else you would know how many years ago you moved into this house. So you were an alcohol abuser and a drug abuser.
Yes.
While you were living in the house?
Yes.
Are you still abusing drugs and alcohol?
No.
Did you go into rehab?
No.
You mean you just stopped?
Yeah.
You want to tell me how you did that and when?
Back in February of this year, I was stabbed and
By a stranger?
kind of. I really didn't know him. I was just partying with him.
So you were in the hospital for a while?
Yeah, well, just like one night. It wasn't really that bad. It was stabbed in the back. It just like punctured my lung just a little.
And?
And after that, my dad had a stroke and stuff, so I just kind of figured I need to start changing my life.
Well, that's a very good thing that you figured you had what we call in the trade an epiphany, a life-altering experience, a wake-up call, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Don't be smart with me. I don't think you're cute. Now, if you have what we call an epiphany, a mind and a life-altering experience, that usually says you want to start doing the right thing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Try yes.
Yes.
And when you were living in this rental property, you stopped paying rent because you were putting up your nose or in your veins or whatever you were earning. So you stopped paying rent, correct?
Correct.
And you stopped paying for the care of this car, correct?
Correct.
Then you had this experience. Don't you think that you should go back to your old life and say, I have to make certain amends for things that I did, like trashing this house?
No.
Why not?
My dad never really had a problem with it. I mean, they knew I was partying there. They knew I was drinking. They knew I was partying. They knew I had friends coming over.
Can I see pictures of the house, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Staying with friends.
What did I ask you that was funny?
Nothing.
Why would you trash a house like this, sir?
Just having a good time.
Are you the only child that your father had with your mother?
No.
How many other children did your father have with...
One.
Where is that child?
He kind of stays with my mom.
Does he stay with your mother because he takes care of her?
No.
She takes care of him?
Well, he stays in one of her apartments. I really don't talk to them that much.
Why not?
I really don't like my mom too much.
Did you like your father?
Yeah. Yes.
Did you respect your father?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Well...
And you don't respect him now. Did I wipe the smile off your face? You don't respect him now because if you respected him, you wouldn't have done this to his property. And if the excuse was that you were using drugs and alcohol and therefore you were not in control of yourself, that's not an excuse. That's a reason that you would allow you and your friends to do this to his property. But now you've sobered up. So I don't think that you respect your father or his memory, sir.
Yeah, but
because if you did, then you would say, this property belonged to, at least in part, my father, and I'm disrespecting his memory by leaving it like a pig pen. I'm disrespecting who he was and how nice he was to me by saying to me, listen, we'll give you a home. You don't like your mother. Maybe she's a problem, but I want you to feel as if you have a home with us. Here's a place for you to live, and you take it and trash it. But then you get clean and sober, and you don't fix it. And there's no excuse for that if you want to do the right thing and turn your life around, Mr. Frere. We understand each other?
Yes.
We're not laughing anymore, are we?
No.
I see the estimates of what it's going to take to clean up this place. I doubt whether the jurisdiction of my court would cover it. It doesn't. All right, now tell me quickly about the car.
He didn't have a vehicle, so I let him use my vehicle. And when I found out he left, we went to the house and the car was in the driveway.
How did you find out that he moved out?
He told my daughter. My daughter speaks with her brother still, and he told my daughter that he was going to move out. She's the one who informed me that he was gone. Did you need to hear that from her?
No, I'm just going to give you some advice. You too. When somebody is a drug abuser, and he acknowledges that he was a drug abuser, and unless they take care of it, it's not going to go away. And his life-altering experience didn't, from what I'm hearing, alter the way he thinks. So you look like two nice young people. Keep your distance. I know you're looking like this. I'm telling you, for your own protection, keep your distance. Bad news. Okay. Can I see pictures of the car, please?
He came to us with some serious problems, and it took us a while, and it appeared that he had straightened his life out. He really was doing great. He had a great job, made good money, and that was why he rented the apartment, why we let him move in, because we figured that it was his family. He was going to take care of it just like we would have. And he did. For over a year, he did. And then I don't know if it was his father getting sick or what happened to him, but it all just hit the wall, and he reverted right back to what he knew. And, you know, what I'm left with is to pick up the mess.
Mrs. Frere, listen to me. When he came to you, he had some problems. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
And would those problems include substance abuse?
I'm sure it was. I couldn't prove it, but I would say.
And then he got a job, and he appeared to be okay.
He did very well.
And then he went back to drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
Did you hear what your mother said?
Yes.
Unless you take care of it once and for all, it's like an enemy that you wound over your shoulder. If you wound an enemy, that enemy can always come back to hurt you, right? Mm-hmm. That's drugs. You have to get rid of it. And he's not smart enough to get rid of it on his own. And he's never gone anywhere to help him get rid of it. So he's always going to go back to it. And he's going to suck you in if you let him. You understand?
Yes.
Good. So I'm glad you're working, sir. Good. And if I haven't been able to help you, that's too bad. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Dewan.
Mỗi ngày thì trẻ sơ sinh cần bao nhiêu sữa là đủ? Thì chúng ta thấy rằng là điều này thì cái điều này thì không bắt buộc mẹ nên cho bé bú theo nhu cầu. Nếu trẻ bú ít bú thì mẹ cần phải chia nhỏ cái cỡ bú ra, có thể cho con bú thêm. Trong trường hợp trẻ ham ngủ, thậm chí đi chơi quên bú thì ba mẹ hãy tự chủ động để cho bé bú. Thường thì vài ngày sau sinh trẻ có thể bú từ 60 cho đến 90 ml trên một lần, đó là cái lượng trung bình. Khi đầy tháng thì con có thể bú lên 120 ml trên một lần, và khi được 6 tháng thì trẻ có thể bú từ 180 cho đến 250 ml, 240 ml trên một lần. Từ 7 cho đến 8 tháng tuổi thì trẻ có thể bú từ 210 cho đến 240 ml trên một lần. Và đó là cái lượng sữa trung bình dành cho trẻ. Khi mà trẻ bú ít, mẹ căn là bé bú không đủ cái lượng đó thì mẹ hãy chia nhỏ cái lượng bú ra để cho con bú nhiều lần để đảm bảo được cái lượng sữa nó phù hợp để cho cái sự phát triển cơ thể của con. Đối với những bé bú mẹ mỗi ngày, trẻ thì cái lượng thì mẹ có thể điều chỉnh cái lượng bú, căn cứ theo cái lượng bú của con để mẹ điều chỉnh cái lượng bú. Mẹ ban ngày bé bú ít thì mẹ hãy cho con bú về đêm, miễn làm sao mà đảm bảo được cái lượng sữa dung nạp vào cơ thể bé để cho bé có đủ dinh dưỡng để phát triển. Nói chung là giữa cái việc bú sữa mẹ và sữa công thức thì sẽ có cái lượng sữa khác nhau, cho nên là mà theo Tổ chức Y tế Thế giới thì khuyến cáo là mẹ nên cho con bú sữa hoàn toàn trong 6 tháng đầu. Mẹ vừa có thể kiểm soát cái lượng sữa bú của bé, đồng thời cái trong sữa mẹ có rất là nhiều kháng thể sẽ giúp cho hệ tiêu hóa của con phát triển khỏe mạnh, và hệ tiêu hóa phát triển khỏe mạnh thì tất cả những cái sức khỏe của con phát triển khỏe mạnh, và con phát triển khỏe mạnh thì bố mẹ vui, mọi người đều vui, đúng không ạ? Cho nên là nếu như có điều kiện thì mẹ hãy cho con bú sữa hoàn toàn bằng sữa mẹ trong 6 tháng đầu mẹ nhé.